Preparing a live stream.
Great. I think we're live right now, or is it saying we're waiting?
It just says redirecting to YouTube, and now I think we're up. Preparing a live stream. So now, oh yeah, we're alive. Yep, I see what you mean about the delay. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, hi everyone.
Hi.
This is the Full 42, where we talk about life, the universe, and everything fun. I am Christian Strain.
I'm Mike Giuliano.
And do you have, I was going to go first, right? So every week we try to guess a fact about each other. So my fact about you, I tried to guess which Hogwarts house you were in.
Ooh.
It's actually harder than you think because they try their best not to make Slytherin sound evil,
right?
In their descriptions, right? And then the other ones, they make them try to sound relevant. And then Gryffindor is the one that everybody kind of wants to be a part of. However, knowing as much as I do about you, which is not a tremendous amount, really, I'm going to pick Gryffindor, not only because it's the safest one, but because I do know that at least one point during our conversation, you got angry at the injustice of something. And maybe you know what that is or not, but it made me think, okay, that sounds like you want to rally against injustice. That's Gryffindor.
Interesting.
So would you disagree?
I would agree.
Oh, I think that's the first guess I've gotten.
However,
oh no.
Yep, I did one of those little, and I've never really tried to align myself with one of the houses. I'm not sure which one it would be. But I did one of those, like, answer these questions and we'll tell you what house you were in. I came up Ravenclaw.
Huh.
So my only real true identification benchmark was that one quiz that gave me Ravenclaw. But I would say you'd be right. I would want to be in Gryffindor from what I know of them. Well,
according to the stories, you can kind of want to go to a place and it takes that into account. So I don't know if I'd want to be in Gryffindor. Their students constantly get attacked by things.
They do.
Everybody else just seems to be, going to school. No drama. Every time, I won't say every time. I did one of those two and I got Slytherin. So, and the funny thing is I was not trying not to guide it away from Slytherin, because I know, like, they would ask a question. I'm like, you're asking that because you want me to, like, that's obviously Slytherin. But I'd be like, but yeah, that kind of thing. So I took it and I was like, no, I'm just too much in my head. So then I went back again, trying just to only think, don't think about the end result, just do it. And then it gave me Gryffindor. I was like, that's not even close. So then I thought, is this just a random, does it even track? So I went back and did it again exactly the same way, and it gave me Gryffindor again. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm just, in the middle. I don't think anybody's perfectly one side or the other, right? So,
sure. It's like one big Venn diagram, like you're a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Right.
Yeah. Would you align with, if you would say that one of them was correct, would you align with Gryffindor or Slytherin?
When I was younger, Slytherin. Today, see, the reason why I don't think Gryffindor is just because I'm not a big, this has to be corrected justice, kind of person. I'm more of like, life is this way, and that, kind of rolls off your back, kind of personality. And that's why I didn't think I was a Gryffindor. So yeah, I don't know, maybe Ravenclaw. Ravenclaw's kind of bookish, right?
Yep.
So problem is I was a bad student. Like, I was a bad student in the way that I would not read the book that they told me to read. I would be reading my own book.
Interesting.
So my own stuff. Like I did a lot better in college because of the freedom versus I don't like structure. So not bad academically as much as just rebellious against structure. So I don't know if that's Ravenclaw.
Down Slytherin.
Yeah, I think that's why I moved towards Slytherin more. Maybe I don't identify with Slytherin Slytherin so much now because I'm more of a freelance artist, my own boss and stuff. I mean, I have bosses and people I work for and all, but working from home, it's a lot more freedom, so I don't have to rebel against that kind of thing.
Right, you just rebel against yourself.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I will not do that. All right.
It's a whole nother topic. Rebelling against yourself. All right. I didn't see you going Harry Potter on that one.
I was trying to go a different route than what we've talked about before.
Well done. You did it. I didn't. All right. Mine is if I had to pick of the MCU, if I had to pick which movie was your favorite, and there are a lot to choose from, I would say Iron Man 3.
Really?
Really?
Are you serious with that one? Or are you like,
not at all?
Mess with me? Seriously?
That
is one of my least favorite of all the movies.
So I went safe figuring it wouldn't have been one of your favorites. Okay. I enjoy it. I think it's a good movie. It is. Wait,
did you say least favorite?
No, your favorite.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my least favorite movies. Not that I hate it or anything like that. I've seen it twice, and I don't feel like I ever need to really see it again.
Interesting. Okay.
I didn't hate it. It just didn't do anything great for me.
Okay.
I mean, I can't really point out a part that goes like, oh, this, it was better than 2. I liked it better than 2. I'll give it that.
I almost went with 2, but I figured that was way too safe. So.
Too safe. No, the safest one is Endgame, right?
Well, if I wanted to be correct, I probably would have went with something. So if I were being serious, and I went with 3 because I figured I didn't want to get it right. If I was really debating Doctor Strange. I thought maybe Doctor Strange would be your maybe top 3, but
that's interesting.
I couldn't figure it out.
I really did like Doctor Strange. Endgame is a really good guess. It's not my favorite, but it's my favorite moment because how could it not be, right?
Sure.
My favorite is Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
2. Okay.
2. And it's real tight between 1 and 2.
Sure.
But yeah, 2.
What gives 2 the edge?
The whole family thing. Actually, I'll tell you what. I read an article the night after I got home, or maybe it was the next day after I got home from watching it in the theater. And the article went on to describe how the movie was really about examining every character's messed up family.
Mm-hmm.
Star-Lord's, father issues and stuff like that were prevalent, but there was also, Gamora's father's issues, which come in later, even more so. But even Rocket, with how he dealt with his family, the people there and stuff like that, all of those relationships, the way they were interconnected and flawed in every single way, but still kind of worked. It was my favorite part. And the whole, I guess the whole Yondu Star-Lord relationship was pretty interesting.
It's true.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think the exploration of the family in that one really put it over the edge, and the celebration of Yondu as being a guardian finally, because he's original, was like a great nod. The funeral was amazing. That whole thing was just all the feels.
Yeah. And, you don't have to, it was great because you didn't have to do any of the origin stuff.
Right.
So while origin stuff can be fun and all, it often gets in the way of story. So 2 is just all story.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, we can go. I mean, the moments you said the end game. I mean, there's that one moment which I'm obvious.
There's more than that one moment, so you're gonna have to be more.
Well, with all of them. Well, I guess.
Spoilers for Endgame coming, I'm sure.
Yeah. There's so many.
Yeah.
Well, which if I say that moment, which moment? For me, it's Cap with the hammer.
Okay, that's what I was gonna guess your moment would be.
Oh.
And I love that moment. You know, when it comes back to him,
yep.
Oh, that's great. You just see it lifting the first time.
Yep.
You're like, what's going on? But my moment was, hey, Cap, on your left.
Yes. Yeah.
Thing opens up. And the whole thing with on your left coming from Captain America to Winter Soldier when they first met. Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was really good.
And it was also you watched all those people die last movie, right? Like fade away, and they were all gone, and then they came back, and you're just like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing, like the first time I watched it, this could turn into the Endgame show if we don't watch out.
Yeah, I told you mine was going to spark conversation.
Yeah. The first time I watched it, there was so much going on that I forgot about Captain Marvel. And so when he's up there and he's like raining down on him and then the guns turn, I'm like, what are they turning towards? Like I'd forgotten. And then just as they were about to show, I was like, like it came to my head, and then she comes through. Right. I'm like, oh man, like it was just moment after moment after moment of better and better times, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it was tremendous. The broken shield, knowing going into it, I know you try and stay away from spoilers, but knowing like you're probably going to see the end of Captain America, like Chris Evans is done. And then you're trying to figure out when that moment's going to happen. And you're like, it's going to be here. Oh God, it wasn't here. All right, now it's going to be here. And crack shield. He's all like and then he's the shield off of Thanos, the hammer off of Thanos, the lightning coming down. Like that whole thing was just,
Thor and everything. And the whole thing they've done since the beginning with Captain America, the I never give up, I could do this all day. Thing. Oh, it's just so great to see that brought all the way through to the end, right? Like you can tell he knows he's done. Mm-hmm. He knows he's about to die, but he's like, I can do this all day. You know, he gets back up. Just seeing that on his face, and then I'm getting emotional just thinking about it.
Oh, it's so great. But now go back to Infinity War and that moment where he takes on Thanos by himself and he grabs the gauntlet, and you see how massive the gauntlet is and how he's this superhero, but man, he's so tiny in that moment. And that you're like, oh, this is it. Like, this is going to happen.
See, when I saw that moment, I saw something else. It was Thanos's face. He had his fist here, and he was pushing, and he kind of looked like, man, this shouldn't be this hard.
Yep.
I got a little pride for Captain America. I was like, yeah, like there's no way he's going to stand up to him,
right? For
long anyway,
right?
But just getting it's like whenever he got the little drop of blood, when Iron Man got all that for a little drop of blood.
Yep.
I was like, yeah, but a human got a drop of blood. That's huge.
Yep.
No. Yeah, and the whole I am Iron Man thing coming to. I mean, it's just like it felt like they wrote that in 2008 to be this moment, you know.
I know sure. That whole story arc. Yeah.
But it's just beautiful arcs all the way through for every character, you know. So yeah, I almost take Endgame out of the running for this kind of thing because it's too dependent on all the other stuff beforehand. It's not fair.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, you could even say Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is dependent on 1, which it is.
Sure.
But if you just watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and that was it, I think you could still really get into it, enjoy it, all that. If you just watch Endgame, like not even Infinity War, it wouldn't mean anything to you.
No, because as soon as that happens, you're thinking of Ultron, right? Where they're all trying to pick up the hammer, and Cap
Right.
moves it just a little, and Thor's like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, when that hammer budged just a little bit, I didn't like the retcon. I think it was where the Russo brothers said that they kind of, I don't know if it's a retcon or not, but when I watched that, well, let me ask you, when I watched that and they in Ultron and he moves the hammer just a little bit, and like Thor goes, do you think that's all he could move it? Or do you think that he felt he could move it but left it so he didn't threaten Thor?
Ooh, I never thought of that.
So you thought he just couldn't move it.
No, well, sure, he couldn't lift it.
Right. And that's how I thought it was too. Like he could almost, like it was almost there, like he could almost lift it. And so that's what I thought was happening.
Right.
The Russo brothers said they're going to, not that they're going to go back, but they said, we're going to just say that he could always move it, but he decided not to. Like he could feel that he could move it and went, nope, can't do it, and walked away so that it didn't challenge Thor or mess him up or anything like that. I don't actually like that as much. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't like it as much. I prefer to think that Captain America, because Captain America at that time was still Cap, good old Cap, not Nomad version Cap, right? I prefer to think that Cap going through the Nomad and becoming less legalistic is what made him be good enough. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like he put good above, I guess, the system or being a soldier or whatever,
Right.
and that is what made him honorable enough to pick up the Mew Mew, is what, what Darcy calls it.
Yeah. Mjolnir.
Mjolnir.
So the journey he takes after.
Yeah.
So like wiggling the hammer puts Cap on the radar, and then the journey to that moment is what solidifies it for him. Interesting.
Right. I think at the moment that he tried to pick it up in Ultron, he was really close.
Right.
But he had this block of like this Boy Scout kind of like belief in the system, you know, where like the system will win in the end and stuff like that. And it wasn't until after, of course, Civil War, that he realized the system isn't what you need to believe in. It's being a good person overall kind of thing. And that's what I think should have made him be able to pick up the hammer.
Yeah.
He became a different person after that, you know?
Yeah. I would align with that. I don't like the idea that he knew he could and he left it there just to avoid conflict.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Sure. I never would have thought of that until you said it. That never even crossed my mind.
It didn't until I read that they had talked about it too. But to me, the idea that Captain America grew as a person into a kind of person that could pick up the hammer was more interesting.
But then, because the Russos say that exists, is that what actually like is canon? Cap could have lifted it.
Did they do Ultron? I don't remember.
Huh? They did not do Ultron.
Then I'd say no.
Who am I? I want to look it up. I don't think they did.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't Whedon. He only did the first one.
Right.
I have a computer right here. If people don't mind waiting.
I want to say Favreau.
Oh, weird. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier popped up whenever.
Oh yeah. Did you see the full trailer?
No, I am avoiding spoilers on it, so I'm going to be boring and not be able to talk about it until I guess. I have seen the teaser trailer that they had a few months ago.
Okay.
Director was Joss Whedon. Oh, okay. Whedon did do Ultron. I didn't realize that.
Interesting.
I thought they switched off with him before then. So yeah, I'd say Whedon needs to be the one to decide that. but
Okay.
who am I to say that?
Yeah, I don't. If it is, it is, and it's an interesting read on the character. I'd like to think that what you said, like the journey had taken him to the point where now he's worthy.
I think it was pretty obvious when you saw him in Infinity War, or no, sorry, in yeah, it was Infinity War, where he grabbed the staff as it came by, and he had the beard, and the star was ripped off, so it looked more nomad-like. You know,
Right.
When you saw him different like that, I'd like to feel like he went through, what was it, like 2 years of changes and stuff. Yeah, so
He was on the run.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, you were right. That caused a little bit of a walk down memory lane.
Oh, sure. And we can keep going, right? Like, think
Oh
of
yeah,
your
we can
favorite
make the
movie.
entire episode about this, but
Oh man.
you know, let's jump ahead to I guess our top 5 sci-fi games.
Sure.
So we had a conversation just before this about what even makes sci-fi, what decides what is sci-fi. There's always, different opinions. So what in your mind makes sci-fi?
So I was always in the school of, if it involved magic, it was fantasy. And if it involved science, tech, future, it was sci-fi. Then I did a little research when we said we were going to do sci-fi, and although the majority of the definition showed that it was some sort of future, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the future. It could be an alternate past, but it had to do with some sort of science involved in it, technology, something like that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The fact that future doesn't have to be part of it, it often is, right? I think mostly because it's the easiest to go, oh, here's new technology, must be the future, right? But like, I don't know if you ever saw the show Fringe.
No.
That had all kinds of really good show. J.J. Abrams went under the radar, actually, for the most part, but it is a good show, and they finished it. But anyway, it was modern day times, but there was this kind of science that's people don't know about kind of thing based on quantum physics, all this stuff. So, it's kind of like a X-Files feel.
Right.
Although X-Files goes all over the place, right? I don't even know what you would call X-Files. Is it sci-fi? Is it horror? Is it, I guess if aliens are involved, you can say sci-fi.
Yeah, maybe, but then, I mean, you can't, well, yeah, I guess.
Although I would say the movie Alien is horror, then sci-fi, not sci-fi horror.
That's interesting too, because I would say it was sci-fi, not horror.
See, I'd go off of and I would say Aliens Part 2 is action movie sci-fi. Or maybe sci-fi action movie. But yeah, it's all subjective, right? But for me, watching Alien as a horror movie, I get a horror movie experience. And the sci-fi stuff is just to, create that creature running after them kind of feel.
Sure.
That's why I classify it that way. But either way, if somebody wants to say, no, it's sci-fi with a little horror, that's fine. That's just subjective, kind of how you feel about it, right?
What would you say about Solo? Would Solo be a sci-fi or a heist?
It's a sci-fi heist, yeah.
Okay.
Well, see, I have a friend who argues that Star Wars is fantasy in space. It's not even sci-fi. There's magic, which was part of the criteria, right?
That is, and technically, as I mentioned to you before, science fiction seemed to revolve around future, and since Star Wars happened a long time ago,
right? Yeah, I don't think future has anything really to do with it, though. You could have you can have a story about Tesla inventing all kinds of cool things that he never really did, and that would be in the past, but it's future, right?
Well, that would be Scythe, right?
That would be Scythe, yeah. That's true. Yeah. So yeah, it's hard too, because when I went to BGG and typed in the sci-fi on advanced search, some of those I was like, I don't know if that's sci-fi.
Yep.
Like things with dystopian futures. Is that like, oh, okay, Mad Max, is that sci-fi?
Yeah,
Is it?
a separate thing that's apocalyptic. I don't know.
But it actually has less technology. Like it has a reversion of technology.
Right.
So is it sci-fi?
No, because I think sci-fi is advancement, right?
Maybe, or alternative at least. Like he definitely didn't have anything we can't make today.
Right.
Obviously, because of the desert things they do out in California, whatever it is. If you've ever seen that, they have like drag races and stuff like that. I don't know if that is sci-fi or not. Yeah. It's an alternate future.
It is. I think maybe we talk about that after the show on the Discord about is Mad Max sci-fi or something else.
I guess it'd be the same thing as like Planet of the Apes and stuff like any kind of dystopian future that kind of reverts back, right?
Yeah.
Like Planet of the Barbarian.
Would that be sci-fi?
Which one?
Planet of the Apes.
I don't know. That's a good question. There's no aliens. There is evolution, like messing of like something evolving into something else. That's kind of sci-fi-ish, right? It is the future.
Yeah.
Spoilers. 1970 something movie. Yeah. So I mean, he travels in space to get there.
So Tim on the Discord just said, he just posted a couple of questions. Science fiction, sci-fi is fiction about science, not necessarily going forward, but maybe about it going back and how it worked, like some steampunk. So that's interesting too.
Yeah, is steampunk sci-fi? I would say so. I would say it's like a category of sci-fi, right?
Like a subcategory?
Yeah.
So Will Smith in Wild Wild West is a sci-fi movie.
Oh, no.
Off the rails, Chris. Off the rails.
Yeah. Why did you bring that up? By the way, I won't go into the whole thing. I might. Have you ever watched Kevin Smith do his talks at universities and conventions before?
I have not.
He has
two. But I have not.
He has 2 DVDs out, and the first one is the best one. I can't remember what they're called now, but basically he took his conversations, his not conversations, his whatever you call him. He's standing in front of college audiences and answering questions. Right. And somebody asks him about working on Superman. This was before Superman Returns. And somebody had asked him to write scripts, and he was starting to write scripts and stuff. Anyway, he tells a whole big story about Hollywood and things he went through with the producer and stuff. And it ends up explaining some things about the Wild Wild West, which is hilarious. I'd say just go look at it because I'm not going to tell it as funny and interesting as he does. But look up Superman Kevin Smith, and it'll probably be on YouTube or something. Okay. But do it after the show.
Okay. I think I hit a sore spot with Wild Wild West there.
No, not a sore spot. Just it started out not bad and then just went, like you said, off the rails. Really, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Right? Yeah, there's some fun parts about it.
Sure. Do you hear they're rebooting it? They're doing a Wild Wild West 2? Of
course they are.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I don't think that's true. It is great.
I would not really be surprised at this point. They'd still get people to watch it.
Sure.
I would probably even watch it just so I could be disappointed.
Everything old is new again, right?
Yeah. Well, I thought what you meant as a part 2, not a reboot. I don't know if I'd watch it as a reboot.
No, probably not. A continuation, maybe. Yeah.
Because, like I said, there were parts of it that were fun and stuff, but oh my gosh, it just went crazy.
Well, Kevin Kline is great at anything he does.
I like Will Smith. I actually like him as an actor, and his abilities and stuff. Um, I think he does better whenever he's actually in a more serious role. When you put him in the Independence Day, Wild West ones where he can kind of goof off and stuff, I still see the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Sure.
Yeah, because he's goofing off in that show all the time. So. But
Yeah.
I like him whenever they stick him in really drama like roles and stuff.
Right. You see
He did
Gemini
well.
Man?
What?
Did you see Gemini Man?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. I'm curious.
Yeah. Did you see the one where he and his son, who was played by his son, like crash landed on a planet and all that stuff? I actually liked that one.
Yeah, that was really good.
Pretty well.
The whole thing
Didn't
about
really-
fear and danger.
Yeah, nobody really. It just kind of came and went.
Yeah.
Nobody even talked about it. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. It didn't have to stay. Like I Am Legend had a staying power. That one hit and stayed. But
Yeah, I liked it. Well, it had some, it came from some old stuff. What was the Charlton Heston version of it? I can't remember what it's called. Something Man. It has some legs behind it too. So,
Gotcha.
But yeah, I actually liked I Am Legend.
Yeah.
They talked about actually doing a sequel for it whenever it first came out because it did so well, but I'm kind of glad they didn't. Some movies shouldn't have a sequel, right?
Agreed.
All right, so top 5. Do you want to go first or me? We'll start with our 5th one, right?
Well, I have a couple that didn't make the list. Just I want to mention them because
Do you want to mention them after the list so people don't guess that, they won't know that it's on your list?
What do you mean?
Do you want to mention it after saying what the list is so that I guess they'll know that it's not on your list if you mention it before the list, right?
Right. Well, it's not. It didn't make. So the first thing I want to say is the top 5 is nearly impossible. The only thing I could say for certain is my number 1 music. Other than that, everything else is a crapshoot based on feeling, the people around me, time, the phase of the moon. Everything else kind of changes with TV shows, movies, books, like anything like that. Puzzles. Do I want to do a word search or do I want to do something on the iPad? Like it all just it varies. So a top 5, especially in board games, is super difficult. In as narrow as you want to make it, sci-fi, horror, roll and writes, I don't think I'd be able to say this is my definitive number 1. There's one game because of its connection with me that would be my number 1 no matter what, and that's maybe a future episode. But there's no way this was in any order. Like my top 5 are not. My 5th is not my 5th favorite. My 1 is not my 1 favorite.
I will say that these can move around for me as well. But the order that they're in is because of the order they popped into my head. And maybe that's an indication of me liking one more than the other. And once I looked at it, I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that being there. So.
So I scribbled. I put one down. I was like, nah. So maybe that's an indication. Like, no, that should be here. I don't know.
Yeah. After the list, I'll ask you which one you thought of first. See how that works.
Okay. Okay, that's fair.
All right. So you had honorable mentions?
Yeah. So I had 3 that popped into my head. I wouldn't put them in my top 5, but they're games that I played a lot of that I enjoyed. The first one that came to mind was The Reckoners.
Haven't played it.
Awesome. Love it. Love the mechanisms, love the story. And we can kind of talk about this in the next thing about narrative, but I mean, they're based on an existing IP, right?
Right. And I hadn't read the book. That's why I hadn't played it. And
I hadn't either, but playing the game makes me want to read the book. But I love the way it was. The production value that they did in the game definitely makes it shine. It was just a fun game. And I feel it's science fiction because of the content. But in it, I also did Quantum. So The Reckoners is not space. It's more modern day superhero thing. But Quantum and Alien Frontiers were 2 space themed games that I was like, well, I play a lot of Alien Frontiers. Quantum's fantastic. But the other 5, I think, I don't know. made more of an impact.
Alien Frontiers was also in my honorable mention. It was kind of an impactful one, right? I mean, because Kickstarter, it was one of the first. If was it the first? It was one of the first big ones that everybody was like, "Oh, you can make board games," and Kickstarter, right? And that led my life down into board game industry and stuff. So I always have a little place for that. And although I haven't played it in a couple of years, and so I couldn't really put it in my top 5 if I haven't played it
right
in a couple of years. Well, there's one of these that I also haven't played in a couple of years that is in my top 5, but I have a caveat for that. My other one was Merchant of Venus.
Oh, okay, sure.
And the only reason why it's not in the top 5 is because of the navigation. It's still based off of dice, and you could just have, as what happens with sandbox games, sometimes you can have a game that doesn't do much. Like, oh, all I did was like go here and kind of get lost in space for an hour, and then that's it.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's a possibility in the game. That's why it didn't make top 5.
So I think my reasoning for Alien Frontiers being on the outside was because of the theme. I don't necessarily feel like my ship exploded or I'm getting a new ship. Like you're putting a die somewhere and you're doing a certain thing and you're getting the fancy little candy or you're getting the rock. Like the theme of it could be anything. So I didn't feel like it was a space, like a top 5 worthy space or science fiction themed game, because the theme, it's a great game and I love it. And I would play it probably over. I mean, it's easy to teach, right? The table presence, you're up and playing it pretty quickly. So I'd probably pull it to the table faster than maybe 3 of my top 5, but because of that reason, I kept it on the outside of the bubble.
I have one more honorable mention, which was Beyond the Sun. I don't know if you played it or not. It's a fairly new game. And that's why it's an honorable mention, because it's still got that new shine on it. I played it 3 or 4 times now, I think, and I got it, I want to say beginning of this year.
Okay.
So in the last month or so.
Right.
It's kind of tech tree, like you're building a tech tree that everybody can kind of work off of, which in itself is already pretty cool. But you're running your own corporation in the future based off of these technologies. And so it's I wouldn't say it has any real story to it. Like you were saying, like you're not going to have your ship blow up and all that stuff because you're running a corporation, right? It's points at the end, all that stuff. But it's a really great game. I just didn't feel comfortable putting it on a top 5 if it's so new. I don't know how I'll feel like in a year from now.
Right. Cool. All right.
You want to start with your 5?
I will. And I'm going to get this out of the way because I'm sure most people will know. Yeah, as you smile, most people will know that this is coming. And I've already talked to you about this. It's still one of my favorite games. If I was forced to pick a top 5 favorite all time, that Asking for Troubles would be in there. It's got so much going for it. Not only that it's orange, but for a worker placement game, to be able to teach it to somebody, it's a little more forgiving with the bumping mechanism, and you get rewarded for it. I fell in love with, and I love Lords of Waterdeep, and I don't think it's fair to compare them both, because although they're both worker placement and you are completing quests by getting resources, I feel they're different. But Asking for Troubles will always have a place in my heart.
Wow.
Not because of you, not because of
definitely not
for any other reason.
Regardless of knowing me, right?
Yeah.
I actually didn't know you were going to say that. That's cool. Appreciate that. I just caveat, I took it off my list because it's kind of, I put my game as number 1, I could do that. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, I know the more I talk about it, it would always be in my bag when I went to our Tuesday nights. I brought it to the class to show the class. My co-designer of the game design class, Keith, he's played it and loves it. Like fell in love with it the first time he played it. But I really feel if you're trying to introduce somebody, and there was a lot going for it too, right? We talked about this. The back of the instruction book was like, here's how to teach the game. Like it was very thoughtful. Everything about that game was extremely thoughtful. And I think what I loved most about it was the engine building of your ship. The different tiles you can put around, so when you go to a location, you make it even better for yourself. That really, like, I gravitated towards that. Not to mention the little sci-fi references of all other sci-fi things in the game, which was clever. Just the game is just strong.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just before this call, I was just going over all the print files with Aaron, the other designer of the expansions and stuff, and I was about to send them off, and she said, "Wait, where are my jokes?" And I'm missing some of her jokes that go on the inside of the box, of the big box. So I got to fit those in before I send it off to print. So yeah, all the little silly puns and sci-fi stuff and all, that's part of the enjoyment of making it, right?
Oh, I was shocked when I sent you the translation of the one robot, and you were like, yeah, I don't think anyone's ever done that. Like, no way.
No one's ever told me about it anyway. Yeah, one of the robots from the original base game, just his speech bubble is a bunch of binary, and yeah, it says troubles if you translate it, but nobody's ever told me that they've translated it. That doesn't mean someone hasn't, but
sure.
Yeah, so you're the first one to tell me to do that. I have something similar done in the expansion. We have a guy called the Hunter, and he's a green lizard, kind of got some pinchers here, alien guy, and in his speech bubble, there's some alien markings that if you look up the alphabet to what he might be like, legal reasons can't say,
would it be something he might see on a little data pad?
Maybe,
on his arm?
Yeah, he might have it like right here. Yeah.
Okay. Future me is looking it up right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
I know some people knew or thought that at least that would be on the list when you talk sci-fi, and people that know me will know that that's the game. So it's not my fifth favorite of the genre. I'm just throwing it out there and getting it out of the way because people knew it was coming up.
It's definitely sci-fi.
Sure is.
It grabs everything we can from sci-fi. So my fifth one, and this might go into the argument of whether it's sci-fi, is Euphoria.
Okay.
So again, dystopian future. Although there is some science that's a little weird because there's people living in. Have you ever played Euphoria?
Yep, with the clouds and the bliss.
Yeah, the bliss. Yeah, so I forget what they're called, but that kind of culture and stuff like that feels a little sci-fi. Although we have airships now, so I don't know if there is actual science. I know there's those buildings that you can make, and maybe there's something in there.
Okay.
Living underground, maybe something in that, but I don't know. I debated on putting it in here or not, but I don't know if you can totally knock it out of sci-fi. So I'm fine keeping it.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't argue it wasn't science fiction.
One of the reasons why I put it in my top 5, though, is because, well, first of all, going back to your 5, it was the first one I ever played that had a bumping mechanism in it with worker placement. And of course, they use dice. And in their version, Stone Mayer Games, in their version, when you bump someone, it's actually bad for them. Like they have to roll their die and they could lose dice, kind of thing. It's not real bad, but and I like the idea of bumping so much that we put it in asking for troubles, but I wanted the experience to be good.
Right.
It was we wanted player interaction. Sorry, player interaction, but we wanted to turn it into a good experience. So when you get bumped, you enjoy that, right? So, that was probably the thing that I'd played. Lords of Waterdeep, you mentioned before. I played that beforehand, and that's pretty basic worker placement too, right? When people ask about gateway worker placement, that's usually one that's going to get named. But Euphoria had that little bit more of just something extra that made it just a cut above for me.
Interesting. And we can get into Waterdeep and narrative a little later, but I think that's important, right? At least the components kind of draw you into what's going on. Yeah, interesting. It's a great game.
What's funny is I can almost reach every one of my list, I think. Like Euphoria is right here. I could have just done that. That's one. That's one. Yep. So
next time we'll have them ready.
Yeah. I should have gotten.
I didn't even think about bringing it on screen. Whatever.
All right. Should I do my 4 now, or this is our first top 5? So.
You want to go?
Do you want to go back?
I did 5. You did 5. Now you do 4. I'll do 4.
All right. Yeah, I'll do 4. This is one that you might not have played. I don't know. Have you ever played Space Cadets Dice Duel?
I actually
have it right here.
Oh, so look at this.
I can show it.
Yep, I haven't.
Okay, so first of all, if you're a Star Trek fan, this is way closer than anything Troubles gets in, I guess. So here's the caveat that I had earlier about playing recently. I have only played this game 2 times. I played it once at a demo at BGG-Con, and I bought it, and I took it to my group, taught them, we played, I loved it tremendously, but the rest of the group hated it. I've not been able to play it since. You cannot play it as a 2-player, or maybe you can, but don't play it as a 2-player. You need at least 4 to 6 people. And this is kind of like, I haven't played I think it's called Sonar.
Captain Sonar.
Yeah, Captain Sonar. I haven't played that, but this is like what came before it. So everybody has like their own station. You have an engineer, you have a captain, you have and you're rolling dice trying to get things to happen. So the captain's like saying, I need power to the lasers and stuff. Meanwhile, there's a board with 2 of your ships. I have a team, you have a team. And in real time, we're giving orders and doing things and moving our ship to fire at each other, put up shields, all this stuff. And it's real-time space battle. And you feel like you were in the middle of it because there is a little pause. When somebody goes fire, everything pauses, you see what happens, then it goes back into real time. Okay. I dislike real-time games for the most part. But this, it just feels like you're sitting at the station in a Star Trek thing, and you're the engineer or whatever station you're playing. And unfortunately, there were people not liking being given orders and orders not heard and stuff in the game. So people were like, stop yelling at me, I'm trying to do the thing. Like it turned into a bad situation.
Right.
So I can never bring the game back, and I love the game. I guess I need to like do it at conventions or something.
Sure.
Like next time, like if we see each other in a convention that has, lots of game library and stuff like that, I'll look for that and see if we can get a bunch of people together into it.
Well, most likely I'll be seeing you if all continues down the path at BGG.
I hope so. Yeah.
We'll see. Fingers crossed. Yeah, so I like that. I like the concept of that game. I like the idea that everyone was in charge of their own station. I have it. I knew how to play it years ago. Just never made it to the table.
Which one? Captain Sonar or this one?
No, the Space Cadets.
Oh, okay.
Sonar I've played. I've played it at 4 and I played it at 8. the original, not the Sonar 2 to 4 family version. And it had been told to me that it was similar to Space Cadets, and I can see the same thing happening with Sonar, where like, oh, I didn't hear it, or what are you doing? You're not doing what you need to do, or I could see it.
Yeah, I have not played Sonar because I knew it'd have the same results.
Sure.
And it just makes me a little bit sad every time I mention it.
Aww.
Because I want to play it right now, but I just don't have the right group for it.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's the case with a few of my games, but yeah. So that one's gonna stay on the list because I haven't gotten to play it enough to be tired of it.
Right. It'll stay on the list until you prove otherwise.
Right.
Right. That's funny. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Sounds
like I'm going to disagree heavily with it when you say it like that.
I don't know.
You ready
for this? I don't know if you even played it. It's a 1 versus all game. I don't know how you feel about those, but one person is playing the inhabitant of a planet that everyone else has crash landed on. And the objective is to get all the stuff you need in order to get away from the creature on the planet. It's called Not Alone.
I've heard of it. Yeah, it sounds interesting.
So much fun. And it's one of those games that feels completely different, obviously, when you're the alien or the creature trying to trap everybody else, but you're everybody else trying to stay away from the creature. It's just, it shines. I love it. I love everything about it.
Huh. Yeah, I heard about it, and I've been wanting to try it. I have not been a huge fan of hidden movement games, but the idea that, because it's usually a bunch of people hunting for one person, but the idea is that they flipped it here, right? Where it's one person hunting everybody else. And I love that. And the reason why I don't usually like it is because it feels very, like I don't mind hidden movement if it's just 2-player. But once you get like 4 people as Scotland Yard trying to find Jack the Ripper or something, you get like 3 players who aren't even close, and they're just like, I guess I have nothing to do. And one guy that might be close. And, it just feels like one player spot has been split up and watered down.
Right.
Whereas what you just talked about in Alone, that one interests me because it sounds like everybody has something to do, right?
And everybody, you have to talk. Everything that's said has to be audible. I have to, if I'm the creature, I have to be able to hear there's no secrets, there's no whispering. So I have to hear. You can tell me you're going somewhere. You can say, I'm going to go here, and totally bluff the hell out of it. And then I try and trap you, and it doesn't work. And every time I've played the game, it has created such an experience that it strengthens the fact that I love that game even more.
Huh. So is there player elimination in it?
No, no, because you'll get hurt, and if I can ever hurt you enough, you'll just get your cubes back, but I get a benefit for like trapping you. So if I get you at a certain location, and there's 10 to pick from, if I get you at 5 at first, I think, if I get you at a certain location, then it benefits me, and obviously it'll hurt you. But there's 3 or 4 or 5 of you that can now split up into different locations, and I'm trying to like corral something. I'm trying to use a card that limits you from going to certain places, and trying to be, well, would they go here now to trigger the beacon, or are they trying to bluff that they're not going to be? So one of my favorites, and I don't know if Ben's watching, we played it at, I think it was Gen Con, and the entire game, Ben from Floodgate, Ben just hounded me into thinking he was going to the lair. One of the cards is the lair. So he got in my head so much that I had to always keep the lair on my radar. Like, all right, someone's going to go there. So part of my turn was always somewhere's trying to manipulate either the lair or a card near the lair. He never went there. The entire game, he was never there. So I actually had him sign the card. So now he's always at the lair. It's the moments that happen in that game every time I've played it, whether I was on the creature side or the human side. It's super phenomenal.
That's funny. You had someone sign a card of your game?
Yep.
Wow. I've never thought to do that. That's scary. That's legacy feel like tearing up cards and stuff like that.
Yep. If it was nearby where I could grab it and not have too much dead air, I would show you.
That's funny though.
It's not around. That my copy of the Lair has Ben's signature on it, so he will forever be at the Lair.
Funny. I like that idea because of it. You know, you're saving the memory, right? Which is what games are all about, is creating these great memories. And well, some games, we'll get into that with narrative and stuff, but
I do have, talking about saving memories, I don't even see it now. I have a little card. I thought it was right here. I have a little card from Twilight Imperium, from Twilight Imperium 3. I think I was talking about this online. The game took us, we were all first timers. We played full capacity. It took us 11 and a half hours after watching a 20-minute how to play, going over our characters and doing setup. And it didn't feel like it was 11 and a half hours. It was one of my best board game memories, was playing Twilight Imperium with this bunch of people. But the entire game, two of my friends sitting next to each other swore they would never attack each other. Don't worry about it. I won't do anything to you. You don't do anything to me. We'll be fine. And the game's first to 10, which seems easy, but it takes forever. And then it came down to the last turn where he stabbed him in the back hard to win. And I had him sign there was a duplicate card in the game. I had him sign it. And it's a little dagger with some blood dripping off it with his initials. It's,
that's great.
Yeah, it was really good.
I've always said, you know, there's in groups, there's always people who kind of like do the alliance, like, hey, you don't attack me and all that stuff. And I've had people go, hey, you want to have an alliance? And I will tell them, I'll say, yes, as long as it won't give me the win, you and I are good. Just so that you know I'm on the up and up. I will stab you in the back if it gives me the win.
Right.
If it won't do that, we're good. And it makes them go, most of the time it makes them go like, I don't like that. But to me, I'm being honest. Like, that's as honest as you're going to get from someone. You should trust me now.
Right.
Because that's what everybody else is thinking.
Sure, yeah.
I'm just telling you what's really going on in my head. So, and I expect the same from them too. If somebody stabs me in the back and they pull off a win, I'm just like, oh, that was amazing.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And I would be so happy for them. And just, oh, it's so great. Erin once got me, we're going on a sidetrack, but she got me so good in a game. Have you ever played Secret Hitler?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She got me so good once. She was sitting right next to me. And we were talking things out like you do there, you know. And she and I kind of talk a little bit, and then, you know, stuff. And I was like, okay, she's good. And my sister-in-law, she's good. So it's got to be this person. It's got to be my brother, and it's got to be this person, you know. And in that game, you know, somebody's Hitler. And the one we were playing, we had enough people that somebody was her, forget what they call it, assistant or on her side or whatever, trying to make her win. And so I was like, yes, it's my brother and all that. And we lost. And my sister goes, I was Hitler. And I was like, oh, totally floored. And just then, Erin turns her head and whispers in my ear and just goes, Hail Hitler. I was like, oh, my whole world like opened up and stuff, you know.
You knew it.
Oh,
that's great.
It was the best thwart stab. I was like, that was amazing. I don't even want to play again because it'll never be that good of a trickery.
Right.
Yeah, I love situations. I don't even care if I win. I just want that great moment to happen in the game, right?
Sure. That just happened with us in Scythe. I think I might have told you about it off camera, but we started playing Scythe like crazy lately. And one of the games we played before we started the Fenris campaign, a friend, one of the guys playing, Keith, was talking about how he saw this like strategy about if you could try and pull off the double star win, not many people will see the 2 stars coming up. They'll see 1. They could have you pegged for like getting all your recruits or enlisting it, whatever. And he's like, if you know, I've seen that if you can do the 2 star, It's really good. And meanwhile, as he's talking about it, I know that my next turn, I'm going to pull off the 2-star. So I'm like, could you please shut up? Like, don't look over here and just stop talking about what you're talking about. Earlier, the other guy that's been teaching us the game, it might have been the game before, mentioned that the only thing that's tradable in that game is money. You can't trade people, you can't trade resources, but you can trade money. So it comes to my turn, and I turn to Bobby, and it was something about the factory. Like, you want me to get out of the factory, or you want me to attack Keith, whatever it was. How about give me $6? And he's like, no. He's like, 5. Like, 5. So he gives me $5. I end the game. I won by 5 points.
Wow.
So if it wasn't for that backstabbing and getting at least the $5, I would have ended the game, but he would have won by giving me the 5 points. It was great. And we still talk about it. It was awful. I felt horrible. But it's one of those moments where it's like, you had to.
You asked for 6 thinking he would talk you down to 5.
But the best part about it is I didn't know that the point spread was that close. So I didn't know 5 points would have done it.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying to like distract him from what was going on and get some extra money out of it.
Yeah, the second game I played of that, I ended the game like 3 stars ahead of everybody else, but still lost.
Right.
Because I concentrated so fast on those stars, my hearts were all the way down, or popularity was all the way down, and everybody else was like spread out. They were doing all the stuff they needed to do all the money in their hands, and I was like, oh, okay, so you got to try to win. Gotcha.
Winning.
Yeah, so it's not always the stars. Yeah. What
would Scythe be science fiction?
Yeah, I mean, we already talked about like steampunk and stuff like that, right? You got minutes in what year is it?
Early 1900s.
Yeah, 20s, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, that's another good example of not future.
Sure. Yeah, so that's my number 4.
What was it again?
Yeah, right.
We went way off.
Yeah, if you get a chance to play it, you'd probably be able to do it remotely as long as somebody has the set. Well, no, you would need the cards. Everybody would have to have their own set of cards.
Well, unless you play like in Tabletop Simulator or something like that, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
I don't know if I'd want to play a game like that. Like when you have real tension, like Sheriff of Nottingham or something like that, right? If you have real tension, I want that in real life.
Yep.
I mean, maybe if we have camera like this, something, but I don't know. Like when you're lying to somebody or you're trying to trick somebody or something like that, I want that. Can they see me sweating, like my heartbeat's raised a little bit kind of feel? I don't know if I get that sitting at a virtual thing with not seeing faces. And
yeah, it's like playing poker with no money, right? You have nothing. Right. You go all in, it really, oh yeah, okay, plastic chips.
Right.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't mind playing Sheriff. We're really off the rails with this one. I wouldn't mind playing Sheriff remotely, but the highlight of Sheriff to me is that snap of that bag. It's one of my favorite, I don't know if you board game sounds or components in games. When you're lying or you're trying to throw someone else under the bus and you're the sheriff and you know you're screwed if they open that bag and that snap happens, that feeling that comes over you is, I have never felt anything like that ever in a game.
We actually don't snap the bag because I'm afraid that it's going to tear the bag. So we just leave it unsnapped. But yeah, Sin kind of, we say if you grab the bag, you have to open it. So the hand kind of goes over the bag. And you're sure you don't want to bribe me or anything like that? So, okay. And the minute you touch it, you have to open it.
It's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the snap of that thing. And they do, I don't know if it was an initial printings or whatever had that, like they would start ripping. But that moment where that thing, I guess that would, hovering the hand over it would be a little evil. That's just evil. Because like you can kind of touch it and come back.
I've done it so many times. I just go, yeah, sure, I'll just look at it. And then I stop right above it and look at him. And you can see him going like, and they're like, ooh, you want to bribe me, don't you?
And then if you're another player and can feed off of that, Oh, that makes that game so
We're,
fun.
we're so off the rails. Let's
Yep.
we're never going to get to the other parts if we. Okay, it's, number 3. Is it your number 3 or my number 3? It's your number 3.
My number 3.
Yeah, because we just did your number 4.
Okay.
An hour ago.
So my number 3 and my number 2 are twofers. So there's 2 games in it for a reason. Number 3 is Dinosaur Island and Duelosaur Island.
Wow, I totally didn't think about those as being sci-fi, but you're right.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me change my list real quick here.
Mm-hmm. So I love, again, with this is the narrative and the theme, right? I really, the connection to Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. I mean, Jurassic Park is one of my favorites, and to be able to do your own dinosaur park is just, it's awesome. But I feel if you don't have the right group, like playing Dinosaur Island with 2 players, doesn't really. It almost overstays its welcome, which is where Duelosaur comes in. Duelosaur just hits it on all levels for a 2-player game. You still feel the same. You don't have so much going on, but it still scratches that. I want to make a dinosaur park.
Yeah, I agree. Duelosaur is great.
Huh?
Duelosaur is great for 2-player. It fixed what little issues there were from the original one.
Yeah. Right. And Dinosaur Island's great. The meeples, the workers, the scientists, like everything about that game with the parks and the fitting it's great. But Duelosaur, I don't know. It depends on how many people.
Art. I even love the art, the whole pinkish 80s weird vibe that they went with it.
Yep.
I love the whole look of it. The only thing I didn't like was the insert situation. I actually had to cut my insert to fit everything in it.
Oh, really?
It's the only time I've ever really had to do that. Sometimes I've thrown away inserts, but I needed part of the inserts to hold the all the tiles.
Right.
I actually had to like cut out some of the insert to fit everything in it because I've got everything. I've got the different dinosaur shapes and all that stuff, So
right, the totally liquid expansion.
Yeah, but I mean, such a minor thing to. It was cardboard. It wasn't like I paid extra for it or anything like that. So, but yeah, great game. Love the game.
Oh yeah,
great pick. Good pick.
Yeah. Thank you.
My third one is Empires of the Void.
Oh,
by Red Raven Games. Have you played that?
Ryan. So the first edition or the second edition? Or the second Empires of the Void?
Oh, the second edition.
Okay.
I played the first one. The first one was okay for a first kind of dive into that kind of thing. The second one's excellent.
I haven't played it yet.
Oh, you haven't?
Mm-mm.
It's really good. It's very clean. It has that San Juan thing where I do an action and everybody else can do that action, but at like a weaker kind of thing.
Right.
So you're not just waiting forever for your turn kind of thing.
Right. You're still engaged on someone else's turn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and it's also has that scythe thing where if this action's been picked, it can't be picked again. You have to pick up a thing and go to another one. So if like you decide to do action A, on my turn, I don't get to do action A. I can do B, C, or D kind of thing. Yeah. But I could have done A on your turn, just at a kind of small. So yeah, it's really good. Very. The only thing that I'd say that I wasn't crazy about, just thematic wise, is it feels very condensed. It feels like you're in a small system instead of like a galaxy or anything like that.
Okay.
And they probably meant for it to be feel bigger and stuff. It's just that they don't do the normal like here's a star and here's a star, anything like that. They just kind of put the planets all over, and you can kind of wiggle around to
them.
Right. It just feels like they're all too close together, I guess. That's just a thematic thing, though. The gameplay is excellent.
I don't think there's a game that Ryan has done that I don't like. I haven't played Sleeping Gods yet. I'm waiting for that to arrive, but
I got mine.
You got yours already?
Yeah, it's right next to dwellings. You can't see it. It's like right there.
Oh, I'm very jealous. But everything everything he's done has been amazing.
I've opened it. I haven't played it yet. Of course, I didn't go through everything, but
Sure.
I kind of just opened it and went, "Ooh, this looks cool."
We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, if I can play it by then. But yeah, Red Raven games for different degrees. I've liked everything. I even have Dingo's Dreams.
Oh yeah, yep. Have you played Rome?
No, but I had it. I haven't played it yet. Is it good? It's in my shelf of shame behind this thing here.
We all have them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
You have rooms of shame, don't you?
It's quick. It doesn't take long to play. If you have, you have to learn it, but if you have half an hour to play it, it's worth playing. It's worth giving it a go. It's a good game.
Cool.
Yeah.
So my number 2 is Star Wars Outer Rim.
Ooh, okay.
And you've played this, I imagine?
I have not.
You haven't?
Yeah, I watched it played, and it was not a good experience.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean it wasn't a good experience for you, or what you saw them go through?
What they went through. They took.
Really?
They set up the game as long as it takes to set up the game, and I think the second turn he guessed where it was, and the game was over.
Oh, you're thinking Rebellion.
Oh.
So Rebellion is the one where you have all your ships and stuff, and one person plays Empire, the other person plays Rebellion, and the Rebellion has a hidden base, and if the Empire guesses where it is, they win, and if the Rebellion, forget what they have to do, destroy the Death Star, I think, to win, kind of thing.
Okay.
Which is actually a really good game. I wonder if they did something weird or wrong, or I don't know, because I can't imagine how that could have happened so quickly.
Yeah, it was super quick. Even they were like, nah. All right, so what's Outer Rim then? There's so many Star Wars games.
There are, but this is the best one of them all.
Okay.
And I even include X-Wing, which I love and played a billion, and I have tons of. But it's a sandbox Star Wars game.
Okay.
You get to play a character. You get to have a ship. You can upgrade this ship. You can get companions, which are like last time I played. Who did I play? I played Captain Afra, and I had Greedo as a companion, and I was flying, I think, IG-88 ship because I upgraded it. So you get weird mixes like that. My brother, on the other hand, had Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon with Chewie as a companion. And that all has to be stuff that you find and discover, and he just happened to get just the right stuff to get on. Although he focused on it too much, and I ended up winning because I focused on the goal of winning. But that's kind of what happens in sandbox games, right?
Sure.
But I mean, you can go bounty hunting. You can take missions from like the Pikes or the Hutts or the Rebellion or the Empire. And while you're doing stuff, you have a little gauge on your character, and it tells you if you're in good standing, neutral, or bad standing with any of those 4 factions. So you could be good with the Empire and good with the Rebellion. But there's some missions that say if you're good with one like my enemy or something, you go negative in this one and stuff like there's repercussions. And if you're negative with any of these, they have like ships that move around that you get into space battles with that they'll attack you.
Wow.
So the only reason why it's 2 and not 1 is because, like most sandbox games, while you get a great story out of it, and this could come in the narrative, it feels a little solitaire. Like you can interact with the other people, but it's just not usually worth it. Like they're going to be harder to deal with in the actual game because they're all prepared for stuff. They have all this stuff going on for them and all, whereas I'm just going to go to a thing. But like my favorite thing to do in the game is do missions. And it's really cool. You have skills. I'm not going to teach the whole thing, but you have skills that you have to roll for to win different tests, right? But it does it by story. So it does it says you are trying to steal a gem from a museum, right? For the Hutts.
Right.
So it says first test your stealth because you're trying to sneak into the thing. So you test stealth. And it says if successful, go down to the next one. Now there are guards. Test your stealth to get past them. If you fail, go to the next one where you have to fight them with your strength. Or if you pass, skip that one and go to this one, So it creates a little story that's all on this little card. It's amazing. And by the time you're done, you can be like, I got this gem. I snuck into a museum. I fought these guards and got past them. And, it's a story every single time you do an adventure. So,
all on the same card?
Yeah. Well, sometimes they break it up into 2 cards, but you don't know it's going to break up into a second card until you get into it, kind of thing.
Okay.
But it's kind of rare that it does. But they have all these numbered cards that it's just like pull number 36 and read it.
All right.
Yeah, you got to check it out. You got to really.
I don't have it. It's one I don't have.
It's available on Tabletop Simulator. In fact, we should set up a time to play it. My brother will play it at any time, and he teaches it really well. We played it on Tabletop Simulator, and we should get a 3-player game going.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Interesting. Okay. What was that? Your number 2?
That was my number 2. So what's your number 2?
What's your number 1? Huh. All right. Well, my number 2 is a twofer again, for reasons. Probably one of those moments that has stuck out with the hidden traitor type role that's in it. I think Dead of Winter does it for me in that situation. But for Sci-Fi, Battlestar Galactica. But the twofer is Dark Moon.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I'm kind of squeaking that one in there because it was BSG Express, which I don't. There it is.
It was also honorable mention, but I forgot to mention it.
Oh, there you go. It was unmentioned. Yeah, I think for Battlestar Galactica, if you're having that game night, right, and you're gonna sit there for a few hours and play, that's awesome. But for an hour, you want to have the same kind of feeling where you just immediately like turn one, roll some dice, show a negative, and start accusing everybody else at the table. That game it has a lot going for it. Trying to figure out, do I fix this? Do I fix that? Do I out myself now and try and screw everything up? I love Battlestar Galactica, but that's like a Twilight Imperium. Like you're in for it, and you have to have the right group. Whereas Dark Moon, you can get away with teaching it and playing it within an hour and a half, and still get that same like yelling at the table, accusing everybody about being the traitor or infected.
So I love Dark Moon. Plus, you could play it with like 8 players or something. It's like an 8-player thing, and it doesn't really slow down.
No,
like it takes a while to get to your turn, but you get to do stuff like you're constantly engaged the whole time.
Oh, sure. If it's not my turn and you're 3 turns away from me and you put in a negative and you're trying to try and tell me that all you rolled were negatives, no way, Chris. I don't believe it.
Right. Plus, if a task comes up on my turn, you get to jump in and roll dice and do it. So you're constantly engaged, and that's why you can go up to 8 players. I've only played the 7, I think.
Okay.
But it was still just actually like it better with higher numbers, because you could have more infected and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
BSG, I am a huge fan of the series, but I have not played the game. And the reason why is because my brother has the game.
Okay.
And Aaron, whenever he first got the game, Aaron was with me, and she had not yet seen the series. So I said, we are not going to play that. We're going to play it on another table because I don't want you to get spoilers, because we were about to watch it, right? By the time we watched enough of it to where she could, I hear that you can watch like the first season and then you're good, right? Mm-hmm. So by the time we finished the first season, they had their fill of playing a game because it was long and kind of thing. And they got to experience it to where it never got put back out on the table again. So kind of a weird thing. I'll probably get into it in a convention or something.
Sure. It was another one of those games that had one of those staying moments for me. First time I had played it, I was with my friend in Wisconsin, and you deal out the cards to see who's the Cylon. and I'm the Cylon. I've never played the game before. I don't know how I should play it. So I grab my phone under the table. I text my friend who's on the opposite side of the table. I'm the Cylon. Outs me to his wife immediately. I spend the whole frigging game in prison, but we had such a good time. Like I
Why
was
would
trying to
you
talk
out
myself.
yourself?
Huh?
Why did you tell your friend?
Oh, just because I think I was drunk and I was like, oh, this will be cool. I'll just let him know.
You should not be a drunk Cylon.
No. Drinking and Cylon do not mix.
That's funny.
That was great.
I love the idea in that game that you can turn into a Cylon or be revealed as a Cylon to yourself later on.
Yep.
Like you could be as like, oh no, I'm human, blah, blah, blah. I'm Cylon, and totally flip and people don't know it kind of thing.
Yep.
I mean, that's very much with the theme of the show, right? So I love the idea when I heard about it. I've watched people play. I've listened to people talk about it and stuff. So yeah, I'd love to try it sometime.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
Right.
So I would put Dark Moon over VSG just because of the I don't know, the setup, the gameplay. It still plays a lot, but you're getting the same kind of feeling, kind of like the Resistance and Coup. You're still getting the same kind of resistance, the same kind of feeling, but not 4 hours later.
Right. Well, and of course, it should be mentioned that Dark Moon was originally BSG Express, right? It was someone's fan-made BSG version that got changed.
Right.
Yeah, good pick.
Thank you.
Like I said, it was an honorable mention. I just forgot to mention
it. You're mentioning it now.
Yeah. So we're down to your number one.
Yeah.
What you got?
You want to guess?
Oh, guess. Yeah. Let me try to guess. And you try to think of mine too.
I would have no idea.
All right. Your number one. Actually, you haven't said anything Star Wars, have you? And you're very experience-based. I'm going to say Armada.
No.
Or X-Wing. I think I should get credit for either one. No? All right.
No, I like it. I like the programming nature of it and how you can crash into a ship and everything is good. But no.
All right. What is it?
Queen's Gambit.
Okay. Well, like I told you earlier, I think yesterday or something, I haven't played it, so it's not on my radar. Yeah.
One of the highlights of episode 1 was how everything was going off at the same time, right? The Gungans are battling the droids. Darth Maul's fighting with Obi and Qui-Gon. You got Padme and Tanaka trying to go up to get the Viceroy. And the game plays that out. Like all of that going on at once. It's just, It gives you that feeling. The theme of it is just, I don't know if it's dated, right? It's 21 years old now. So I don't know if the gameplay would be dated. It's got the card-driven stuff and the dice, and I don't know. I think that game represents that moment in the movie, those moments in the movie, very well.
Which was the best part of that movie, yeah.
Right.
The whole Darth Maul fight and all that stuff. I mean, even today, I'll go to YouTube and just watch that fight sometimes.
Oh, yeah. When you hear the music, it's just hair, like, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
so I know it's not readily available, and it's hard to get, and it's a grail for a lot, and I'm one of the lucky ones to have it. But yeah, Queen's Gambit for the theme, for sci-fi, it's Star Wars. It's the best Star Wars game, I think.
Is there a virtual? Right. Is there a virtual version? Do you know?
I don't know. That'd be awesome if there was.
Yeah, somebody needs to put it up if it isn't. Because I'd love to try it.
Yeah.
But you're right. You can't get a hold of it. The few times I've seen it at conventions, someone already has it, and I'm not going to just I'd go and check every now and then it's always gone.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm just going to have to convince somebody to bring their copy over someday.
Have game will travel. You can get it. Just is how much you want to pay for it, right?
How much does it usually go for?
It depends on where you're shopping, and I don't think the price has changed much, so it's definitely north of 200.
It's
for
not
a
bad.
decently used copy.
I don't think I'll pay it, especially not having played it.
Right.
if I play it and go, wow, this is amazing, I have to have it, then I might pay for it. Yeah, but it's cheaper than I thought. I was thinking like maybe around 350, 400.
Going new and going on certain platforms, like if you were looking for a new copy,
probably could get that.
Yeah, but like the box edge will be rough, for like you can tell it's been played kind of thing.
I'm disappointed I haven't played your number one.
Yeah.
Well, you've definitely played my number one. My number one is Scythe.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool.
You were asking if it was Sci-Fi. I was like, yeah, it better be, because it's my number one on here. Like I said, I put this list in order of what popped in my head first.
So Scythe was the first thing that popped in your head when you thought of sci-fi. Wow.
Yep. Yeah. Which is weird, because you're right. It's not the first sci-fi thing you think, right?
Yeah.
But it is in my like top 5 games of all time. So when I thought my top 5, I already had those in mind. So I kind of pulled from there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Scythe is big. It has its faults here and there that have been addressed. And, if you know it, you can say, oh, don't play this faction with that and stuff. But it's just such a clean kind of feel. And I tried something different every time I play. I'm like, I'm going to try going to the factory and doing all land, just covering everything I can. And especially depending on what factions you use. Like I don't like the purple faction. I can't remember what they're called. They're Asian based. I don't like their stuff because they lay traps everywhere.
Oh, the trap one. Is it?
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily benefit me very well. People just avoid it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if I played a 7-player game, I would play that one. But I don't ever play a 7-player game of Scythe. Sure. No. But the other one, the Scottish one, I can't remember. The green.
With the pigs, with the boars.
Yeah. They leave flags everywhere, and that gives them a boost to their, they get to count that space twice. So that when I play them, I like to try to do as much land as possible, all that stuff. So I just like it. I play something different every time. So, and every single turn is a challenge to do better.
Sure.
There's a lot of games where you play where you're like, oh, I have a goal and it's going to take me a while to get there, and you just kind of work to it. But it's like every single time I get to my turn, I have to try to get that best version of that turn, but it also doesn't result in AP. Like, I guess because I think about it before it gets back to me. I don't usually spend a lot of time wasting other people's time during my turn thinking, but you would think, it only gives you 3 options, right? Unless you're playing that one faction that can do the same option again.
Right, or you have a factory card.
Yeah, or you get a factory card, right? So, I just love the condensed feel of it. It kind of makes me think of Civilization: A New Dawn.
Okay.
I don't know if you've played that or not.
No, I know of it, but yeah.
It has the same kind of feel. Like there's so much that you can do, but you really only have, I think, 5 choices, 5 actions to choose from, and then it has this little system that works, and all this stuff happens. It's great. So.
Right.
I guess it's been long enough I could talk about this. I worked with Jamie Stegmeyer to make a RPG for Scythe.
Cool.
And I got it as far as making a prototype for like a first kind of campaign. And it was going to be a board game RPG hybrid, where it was all RPG, like, old books, role-playing game and stuff. But instead of just instead of a book having here's an X and what an X gives you, I had cards. You would just hold on to your deck of stuff that you have. So, anything you have, you could pull out and put in front of you. This is what I'm carrying. This is what I'm using, all that. And you can only carry so many weight worth of cards and stuff. But anyway, I designed it. I got into it enough to where he shared with me a lot of like behind the scenes story bits and stuff like that, which I still can't talk about. But it made me love the board game itself even more. Unfortunately, as many things go, at some point he decided he just really wasn't into making an RPG, but he thought it looked good and all. But yeah, I'll probably move it along to another IP, kind of tweak it sometime, because the system was fun.
That's interesting. We talked about, and I think this will come up when we start talking about narrative, but we talked about an RPG that uses a deck of cards that once you use it, instead of rolling your dice or whatever, you're using this, and that has a certain thing on it, and then it goes away. That's cool. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, like some cards would be one-time use, like a grenade. You have a grenade card, of course, toss it, right. Once you're done with it.
Right.
And I had a way of using things that had ammo versus swords, because I wanted there to be that blend of, melee weapon with machine guns and stuff. And once you have a machine gun in a game, why doesn't everybody have a machine gun kind of thing? So guns can run out of bullets. So I had a system where you had your character sheet, and you could put like a machine gun at the top of your sheet, and it had these little grooves, and every time you shot with it, you just moved it down, and once it got to the end, you're out of bullets. Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and you had two sides in case you had pistols to move those down in chunks.
Right.
So it had some easy mechanics to keep track of things like that, which a lot of RPGs, I play a Star Wars RPG, and I don't make people keep up with, replacing their blaster cartridges and stuff like that. That's just maintenance. It's not fun,
Right.
I don't think I ever saw Han Solo replace his power card. And if he did, it would have been like a cool move, like he's wounded, he's, putting it in, and it's just kind of a moment to let him talk. It's not anything, Right. So in role-playing games, you want to get as much maintenance stuff out of the way so you always feel like you're in the story, right?
Yeah, you're doing the fun stuff.
Yeah, so that's what all the card stuff was about, was once you knew the mechanics of the cards, everything just kind of flowed.
That's good.
I'll probably move that along to something else someday. But
you should. It sounds awesome.
Yeah. It was hard to write for that story world, though, because it actually wasn't even Jamie's. It was the artist. He's the one that owns the world, and we had to get his permission for me to work on it and stuff.
Right.
So I think in the end, he just didn't want to branch out in RPGs because he didn't know RPGs very well.
Right. Interesting.
It was a fun project, though.
Sounds it. Cool.
All right.
So, yeah,
well, top 5. What? Sorry.
I would have, if I had thought a little bit more about it, I would have come up with Scythe as your number 1.
Oh yeah. Well,
and I think we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, we had been talking about it, I think you brought it up. I was like, don't bring up Scythe. I'm about to bring up Scythe. But that's funny. And it's right here.
Yeah, I've been looking at it.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's our top 5.
Cool.
I'm sure people can argue if they want to. But yeah.
Oh, you can't argue with opinion, I guess. They could argue that it's not sci-fi.
Sci-fi, which still kind of goes into opinion, right?
Sure.
I mean, sometimes I'll look at, I remember seeing, have you ever seen American Horror? It's not American Horror, is it? The one with Christian Bale?
American Psycho.
American Psycho. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
On Netflix, I took a picture of it too. I once saw it under comedies, which there's some funny moments, but so who's to know who puts what in what category?
Yeah, that's not.
I wouldn't put it under comedy.
No.
But it's all subjective in the end.
Sure. Yeah, that was good. I'm surprised by a couple. It was interesting to come up with mine. I don't know if that's the definitive. I'll probably change it as soon as I rewatch this and be like, no, that shouldn't be there. This should be there instead.
I just realized I have 2 Stonemaier games right here. Euphoria and Scythe.
Yeah, you started with it and ended with it.
Huh. That's total by accident. Totally by accident. Well, I had to sneak a Star Wars one in there. So.
Sure. Yeah, you piqued my interest with Outer Rim now. I want to know more about it. That sounds fun.
Yeah, we should get a game going.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Oh, just tell me when. I'm in. Well, not Monday nights at 8 Central.
We're a little busy.
Yeah, I got something going on.
All right.
Cool.
So you have already touched on it, but narrative games. So you wanted to talk about, well, why don't you tell me?
Well, we want to stick with board games, right?
Yeah.
With this topic.
Yeah.
So I think the topic came up with the narrative in a game being not a storytelling game, right? Like Red Ravens, Above and Below, or Tales of the Arabian Nights, something that's storytelling rather than the narrative being, like you would say with the Outer Rim with that one card and how it's telling a story. And at the end, you have this story or you have this character you get to build up throughout your gaming experience. Where is the line between, and I guess this is more of a question than it is anything else. Where's the line between what makes it a narrative and it's narrative because you're making it narrative? Like, I'm going to take this meeple whose name is George and I'm going to move him to this place. And George is now going to get me some stone. And then I'm going to have that stone that George got for me. That's me creating this narrative, but the game being narrative. What's the difference?
So, yeah, so I would say the narrative, at least my opinion, the narrative is when you're done with the game, what story can you tell thematically about what you did, right? Like, oh, my character went and robbed a museum and did this, and then I got a brand new ship, and that new ship went out and I immediately got attacked by this thing and got it damaged. Like, that's a whole story. But there's different games that do different, have different ways of getting that story in your head, right?
Right.
And I think they all can be called narrative games. It just depends on how it gets there. And what's your version of favorite? Like you mentioned Above and Below, which is also like Arabian Nights or Agents of Smersh, right? Mm-hmm. They have this book and stories that you go to and kind of choose your own adventure stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a big list, like written out story. Mm-hmm. You're being told a story, you make a choice, you're told more story. And then at the end of that, you can recount that story. But to me personally, my favorite narratives are the ones that have the players create the story in their head, like what you were saying.
About George, right? the stone gatherer. Yeah.
Yeah, so like what you were saying where you take a meeple and put it here, mm-hmm. and that's it. But in your head, you're like, I'm playing Lost Ruins of Arnak, and I'm going to this place, and oh no, there's a serpent that I got to defeat, and now I go into the ruins, and like all that's going on in your head. That's up to the player. But if the game's designed really well, it kind of facilitates that for the player, right? My favorite example of that is playing the Vagabond in Root. Have you ever played Root?
And no, I started learning it, and learning all four to teach it to other people seemed like too much of a chore.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate part about Root, is that it's a learning experience for everyone all at the same time, mm-hmm. and it's kind of heavy in the beginning, unfortunately.
But totally different than Vast. Vast, I had no problem teaching all 4 different or 5 different ways of playing the game. You're the cave's doing this and then doing this. You're the thief, you're the dragon. Root just seemed like, not that it's a bad game. I've seen people play it. I stood around a table, watched it played for an hour, and I enjoyed myself watching them play. But it just seemed like it was a chore. So
to learn it is a chore. I will definitely say that. Once you learn all the factions, it's great. And one of my favorite things about it, playing the Vagabond, just for those of you that haven't played, is all the factions you play kind of like an empire or something, like you're all the birds or you're all the cats or something. But if you're a Vagabond, you're one dude. And this one dude is hanging out in the forest, and they come out and they make their little weapons, and they go into the ruins and explore ruins and find a hammer, and now they can use this hammer to repair the items that they got damaged. And you get this story going along. And even better is that the other factions, they're creating stories for you. Like, you can walk into a space, be like, oh, it's nice and pleasant here, and then the birds attack, and you're like, and you get caught up in the middle of it, and you have to decide, like, okay, now that's my turn. I could turn on the birds and be an ally with the cats. And if you become good enough with the cats, like good friends with the cats, then they can move with you, or you can move with them and be used in part of their army, not even on your turn, and then fight on your own and stuff like that. Like, there's this whole story that gets developed just by playing the Vagabond. You can kind of have a story with the other stuff, but when you play, like when you play empires or corporations or something like that, it's not quite the same. So Vagabond is my favorite to play, but I enjoy playing the other ones too. But when I played that game, I realized coming out of it that is my favorite kind of narrative. That there's no text in that game, really, at all, that tells me what I'm doing.
Right.
There's never a time that says, you enter into a clearing and talk to the cats. Never. I move my piece into the clearing. And I go, oh, let me trade this with you, cats, and I'll take this item. And like, it's something I'm doing. And at the end of my turn, I'm like, I traded with the cats, and now we're more friendly. And like, that's the real kind of narrative that I enjoy in games. I don't mind the ones with stories, Arkham Horror, stuff like that. They're great, but not as memorable for me.
Yeah, I haven't played Root, but Arkham has been the game for me. It was my introduction to gaming. Like, that was my gateway game, and it was the story, the narrative that hooked me. I mean, walking into my neighbor at the time, they had tried to get me to play this game called Arkham Horror. And we ran into each other in the weirdest places. I worked at GameStop. I saw him at GameStop. I saw him at the market. He's like, yeah, we're playing this weekend. You should come over and play. Like, literally the neighbor, like right next door. Like, just walk to the front door. And it just, the way it was approached, it was like, no, like, he's going to try and sacrifice me. Like, I don't like anything that you're saying about what's going, this cult thing. What are you talking about?
Come over.
Come over.
We play this.
Yep. I'm going to be the sacrifice. It's going to be me and a lamb, and I'm going to be the one that goes. So I finally went over, and they have this kitchen table with the board, right? One expansion, decks of cards, your character, these minis, a side table of all these other cards. He's got a side table of all these other cards, and I'm going, like, what is this? I don't understand anything that I see. Like Monopoly, Scrabble, right? I was one of those, like, board games, Monopoly. Okay, I get it. And yeah, it was nothing like that, and it was awesome. Everything about it was great, and the story of my character going to the newspaper, getting kicked out, of Cthulhu coming up and just wiping house, like, the story that comes out of it, although guided at times, was epic. And every time I've played it, it's just been fun, right? The story, then you roll some dice, and hopefully you've mitigated enough where you can, like, succeed at what's going on, and the story's kind of driven for you, right? But yeah, that game, compared to, like, Tales of Arabian Nights, I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm not a fan.
So I'm a fan of Tales of Arabian Nights, like I am a fan of Talisman, which is it is not a well-designed game, but it can have fun enough moments in it that if you're in that mood, if you go, okay, I'm going to play a cruddy game that's going to have some funny moments in it, and that's what you want to do, then fine. But the reason why Arabian Nights is like that for me, it isn't the narrative exactly. It's the mechanics of how it works. Like, let's say I have swordsmanship as a skill, and I come across a story that says oh, you see a thief who's stolen something and he's looking through it and he has a dagger on him. I think, great, I've got swordsmanship as a skill. I will attack him. I choose to attack him. Choose your own adventure kind of thing. And it goes, great. He turns out to be a genie. Use your magic skill. No, that's not what the story was telling me to do. This is just a random roll of the die thing. And that's what I don't like about it. Now, if you go into it with the idea of like, let's see how messed up I can get and how ridiculous these stories can go, yeah, that's fine. But you just have to be in that mode, right? It's not a great game.
Right.
But it could be a fun experience if you go in it at the right thing. Above and Below does a lot better at that. Much better, really. But it has the same system that you're talking about where it has this whole story, right?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of told to you. You make one choice and then it's told to you. And then I see Arkham Horror is a step above that, or games like it, because it's more sandbox, right? You can decide to go to the hospital. You can decide to go, and you kind of get a feel of what kind of stories and what kind of things you'll need. In fact, I think Arkham even has like, don't they put the items that you're likely to get or something, where you're going, yeah. So
like Dead of Winter with the locations having like the leftmost is what you could possibly find. It's got the most in the deck. Yeah.
Yeah. So it gives those indications. So that's a step above for me in the way that I'm creating the story that I have because I decide to go to the museum or I decide to go to the newspaper. And then what happens there is, told to me. And then the step above that to me is the one that I was describing where you are just experiencing the game and forming the story in your head.
Right.
The only problem I have with Arkham, well, not the only problem, but I have had games where nothing happens. I had one game where the entire game I basically spent trapped in like a library.
Yeah.
I went to the library. Some lady said something. I looked at a tapestry and died. Like it really, that's what happened. It was that bad. I was like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Roll dice. You look at the tapestry and now you're dead. Your character's gone.
Devoured.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my first turn. I was like, fine. Just because I'm glutton for punishment, I got a new character and I went back to the library. I was like, well, I won't get that card again. That card made me get stuck at the library, miss a turn, something. Or I got sucked into a gate and then I went into the void, missing turns and all this stuff. Finally, I popped back out at the library. Just as I step out of the library, game over. And I was like, I really just spent my time in a library for the whole game. So I've had some fun games and I've had some like not fun games. So that's something that can happen, unfortunately, in sandbox games though, right? I mean, sometimes you could just spend your time doing nothing while other people are winning the game or losing the game. So,
but at least you choose it, right? Like you chose to go back to the library, which ultimately screwed you. You didn't know at the time.
Yeah, I chose to go back to the library, but I didn't choose to spend the entire game there.
No.
I didn't choose to miss turns. I didn't choose to, there's a lot of stuff that happened afterwards that I don't like choices that, and this goes back to the Arabian Nights thing. I don't like choices that don't kind of foretell what you're going to run into in games. If I have a swordsmanship skill, I'm going to get involved with stuff that seems like I'm going to pull my sword out and not use magic.
Right.
Kind of thing. If I go to a library, I don't expect to be stuck in a void for the entire game. I expect to maybe get a book or something that's listed on the bottom there,
Right.
But like I said, I've also had fun games where I've gone around, I've gotten my stuff, I've used spells, I've won, I've lost. It doesn't matter if I win or lose, it's more the experience. And sometimes in sandbox games, unfortunately, you just end up not doing anything.
Yeah. One of our most epic Mansions of Madness was before you could play it all together. Someone had to run the house. And I went into the cooler or the freezer area because one of the cards came up. Whatever, bad things. Don't go to whatever you do. Don't go to where it's cold, or don't go to where it's freezing. Something like that. I'm like, well, I'm going to the cooler. I got stuck in the cooler the entire game. The lights went out. A fire started. Creatures kept coming in, just knocking me all over the place. I might have done one thing throughout the game, but basically I spent the entire time stuck in the freezer. But we had a blast because every turn I couldn't turn the fire out. I couldn't turn the light on. I couldn't get out. I couldn't do anything. And it just became this overarching, like, look at the idiot in the cooler.
Yeah, I mean, even in situations like that, like I've said this before about Talisman, that you can end up doing nothing, walking around, just finding water bottles or a bag of gold while people are fighting dragons. Yep. It's just random, right? But if you're playing that game with people who are making jokes and you're laughing and stuff, you could just be sitting around a campfire at that point. It's just giving you a reason to hang out with these fun people. Sure. So a lot of games, most games are really about the people you're spending time with too, right?
Yep.
So especially these kind of sandboxy games.
Sure. And I think that's really the only thing that I liked about Tales, was that it was just us sitting at a table. You had a sex change. Two turns later, you had another sex change. You chose to, I don't know, thief, and you got stolen. Like, there was nothing, at least with Above and Below. I'm going into the battle knowing I can roll this. I have a good shot of getting these things, right? And then based on that, do you choose A or B? Well, there's no way I'm going to get 12, so I'll choose A. But at least the story's connected. Right. Where Tales is it's just all over the place. There's no, even the skills you pick in the beginning of the game, why? And then you're like, I'm going to try and get 20 out of these two things. Then the encounters you're having have nothing to do. Like, it's just a hot mess to me.
There's also a really weird thing that the first time I ever played Arabian Nights, I didn't realize. Arabian Nights, for better or for worse, has a very culture shock kind of thing to it, where, like, from the Western side of things, you might think, oh, this is the good thing to do. But from their point of view, like the story's point of view, this is the good thing to do. I'm trying to think of specifics. I don't want to kind of get it wrong or anything, because we're talking about cultures and stuff. I don't want to mess that up, but especially one that I'm not super intelligent about or knowledgeable about. But there were times where I was like, if this was a Western story, this would be the thing that the good hero would do. But in this version, the good hero would do this, and it, like, in this culture. And that's hard to get around, especially with the random outcomes that sometimes the stories could have, right?
Sure.
So that's another reason, like, I don't know if you've ever played Agents of Smersh.
I haven't.
Yeah, it's very much like Knights of Arabia. It has the same story element and stuff. And it's not quite as random. It's within the whole world of, like, James Bondish kind of thing.
Right.
So you can't go too far off. You can't have colored fish, like, give you wings or make you an ape man or something,
right.
Whatever it is they do. But so you can kind of follow the story. Like, oh, if I'm going into this, do I go down this dark hallway? Well, I've got a flashlight, so yes, I'll go down the dark hall, right. That kind of thing. So it makes a little more sense.
It connects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Agents of Smersh in its own is a fun game and stuff, except it's a little clunky in some of the rules. So,
yeah.
Only reason why I think it didn't do as well. It just didn't get talked about as much.
Yeah.
Kind of old at this point. Could go for a reprint.
Ooh, hey now.
Forget who did it. I think it was a Kickstarter.
Yeah, I don't remember. I want to say 7th Summit or something like that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It was years ago. But yeah, I mean, my favorite experiences are the ones where at the end of the game, I didn't read the story, I felt the story, or
Right, right,
experienced the story, right?
right.
So
It's interesting the difference. Like I think we talked. It might have been off camera, but we talked about Marvel United. Um, I had played it with the same bunch I'm running through Scythe with, and there's almost no narrative. You have to create the entire narrative. Everything is. I love the mechanism of playing based on. You can also play the card prior to yours. So what I'm playing down, you'll be able to play off of, which adds to you. So it's that teamwork thing. But the cards are all icons. There's very little written narrative in it. You're kind of creating the story. But in our heads, we'll see Cap and Black Widow and doing all these cool things because we have, I guess, most humans will have this movie reel playing in their head when they're playing something like that. You can see it. You see the you see George going to get the stone. Like I see that happening in my head now.
right,
And it's just this faceless wooden token and maybe a cardboard chit that has like a stone on it. But in my head, like they're going to get it. They're going to chop it, break it up, and bring it home. And it's
right.
funny. It's just funny.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Lord's Waterdeep earlier and said we'd get back to it narrative. So here it is. With Lords of Waterdeep, they have those quests, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize until I want to say like the third time I played it that they had even text that talked about the quests.
Mm-hmm.
I just went, oh, these cubes are what I need, blah blah blah. You know, it wasn't until I looked at it and started reading, I was like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Like that's why I need 3 rogues because I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, this is of course I need 5 wizards to take on this and 2 fighters. It makes sense, the cubes, right?
Right.
That are being used, which is great.
Right.
And it adds a little bit more flavor and fun to it. But I did enjoy the game beforehand, before I realized to read the quest, right?
Sure.
But it also just depends on the player. Like I enjoy that game more because of that.
Right.
But when I showed it to Erin, she's more of a Euro, like puzzle gamer type person. She went, yeah, that's okay. And she doesn't care about that. She cares about the puzzle that she's working with, which is why she beats me all the time. I
Sure.
say that. Yeah, it just depends. Like if I don't know if she's played the Vagabond and Root or not, but I don't know if she would have the same love and experience that I do.
Right.
Because I don't know if she would get this, like, add the story to it and stuff as much as I am. So it's kind of, you're right. There's the ownership, but owners of the player, for that.
Right. Well, like with Troubles, I'm the captain of my ship. I'm going to this planet, I'm getting the carrots. I'm going to this planet, I'm getting the traps because I've heard stories of this trouble that I need to go take and throw into the sun while other captains are captaining their ship and doing the same thing. But at least there's like, look at my ship, look what I've done kind of narrative to the game. Whereas Waterdeep, I think almost every time I've played it, I without thinking too hard, I don't think I could tell you what the 4 colors were. Clerics, warriors, mages,
fighters, mages, and rogues.
Right. But like the theme is like, all right, I need 3 black cubes, 2 orange cubes, and $5 for something to do this quest.
I loaned it out to my brother, so I don't have it here, but I've replaced the cubes with those little figures. So much better.
Oh, sure, because they're not purple cubes anymore. They're mages.
Yeah, I just wish that the quest cards would have the figures instead of the cubes now. You know. But, same color, and if you're not colorblind or have issues with that, then that's fine.
Sure.
I don't even know if, because it's black, white, purple, and orange.
Yes.
I think those all probably fit within the range that you can tell them anyway. So.
Speaking of colorblindness, and it's not really have anything to do with colorblindness. Did you see Uno came out with the Braille edition?
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Huh. Yeah. The Braille edition of Uno, which I think is fascinating. Like, that's amazing. Yep.
Yeah, I played Troubles once with a fully blind person once whenever we were demoing it, and he had someone with him that would tell him, but I was like, there's nothing hidden in this game.
Right.
He had no problem. Like they would go, oh yeah, if you want carrots, and they would have to tell him what things were available to buy.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so with Uno, I guess you would have to feel what cards you have. But when people put cards down, you'd have to feel what those are, right? Because you're matching the card that goes down.
The card of the color.
Yeah. Well, I guess if they say, that'd be the nice thing to do, right?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if everybody's blind, you could still feel what you're putting down. Yeah, 4 yellow, put it down. Yeah.
I'm fascinated with that idea, because how many other games could introduce Braille into their cards without it really affecting anything else in the game? You don't have to have a Braille edition of a game. You could just add the Braille to the cards. I wonder, or even on the board, right? Like feeling over that this is the tower, or this is like the harbor, whatever.
As long as you don't have pieces that you might knock out of something. But yeah. I wonder how cards shuffle.
Yeah.
And do those little dots like wear down after a while? Like, do they get pressed in?
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because those could press down and wear down, right?
They could. I mean, you could talk about
just
plastic cards rather than cardboard cards. I don't know anything else about it. I haven't even seen a card. I just think it's absolutely amazing.
Well, that's
Uno
cool.
Came out with a Braille edition of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun. There is a convention. It's here in Texas, or at least it used to be. I don't know what's survived or whatever past the apocalypse that we're living in now. But there was a convention for deaf people. And we ran into someone who asked about troubles going over there at one point. And we considered doing it, especially because it's in Texas where we are, and Erin can do sign language a little bit. She went to school and was learning it for a while. So we considered doing it because, again, it's not a game that would suffer from that. Right. And I was trying to think of other games that, I guess when it comes to board games, the hardest ones, I guess, to make useful, right? Not useful, but get people accessible. That's the word I'm looking for. Make accessible would be Sight, I imagine, because most of the stuff is kind of, you don't want to ask people, what's available, and they tell you, and you go, where can I get that? Because then you're kind of telling everybody what you're doing, right? So
yeah, some games don't lend themselves to accessibility. Like Sagrada is one that we've heard a lot of colorblind issues because reasons. I get it. Yeah. And in tournaments I've played with, or I've ran a tournament, and 2 different tournaments where a player was colorblind and couldn't tell the difference between red and green. I think they were different color blindness each one, and all they did at the table was just either separate the draft pool, or at any point it was like, which color is this, which color is that, even on their own board. You just be nice.
Yeah, I was about to say, on their own board it'd be hard to.
Right, but I mean, and they had the wherewithal of what they've already put down. But if they ever had a question of, is this blue or is this green, then the nice thing to do at the table was just, no, that's blue, that's green, or no, that's yellow, that's red, whatever it was.
Yeah, I have a friend who we've played games with before who is colorblind. I can't remember. I think it's green and red are his issues, and sometimes we have to point out, this one's this one, this one's kind of thing. Right. And I try to remember to do that, but couldn't you? Aren't those dice in Sagrada? Aren't they custom? Couldn't you change the pips to be like triangles, squares, and circles, or something like that?
You could. They're not. They're just whatever millimeter translucent.
Yeah, they're tiny dice. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I think that was the biggest.
You guys need to make a big one.
Yeah. Did you see the giant edition?
Is there one?
Oh, there is one.
man, people making stuff I'm inventing in the past.
Yep. There's a great picture of Daryl holding giant Sagrada.
Huh.
Yeah. His face is priceless in it. But yeah, it's like, I think everything is, I don't know if it's 2 times or 3 times bigger. Everything, like the player boards, everything is bigger.
The dice are 10 millimeter, right? So on the normal game.
Yep.
So if it was double, I guess it'd be 20. That's not too big of a.
No, it's
normal die is like 16.
Are they 10 millimeter?
I think they are.
It just says translucent. It doesn't have the measurement on the back of the box.
I know. They're as big as this one. And those are 10 millimeter.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 times? I don't know. I'll get. It's awesome. It's absolutely amazing to look at.
That'd be like, what's the bag like that holds all the dice? A bucket? Is it a bucket of dice?
It's a bag of holding.
Bag of holding. Yep.
But like the box has like a latch on it. It's
oh wow.
Made. Yeah.
We have that like at Dice Tower conventions or something like that. Because I've seen in their libraries they have big stuff.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't think it's any. It was at Gen Con with us. I don't think it's been anywhere else.
So there's only one version of it. You can't buy it.
I guess if you knew the right people, you could buy it.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, that should be a Kickstarter. You guys have a good Kickstarter for that.
We should.
I bet you do a good job. Do a good campaign with that.
It's just, where would you put it, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's an argument you and I can really. I don't know if that's an argument anymore.
Fair point.
Yeah. I mean, a dwelling I just right off, I can see it behind me here. Takes up half of one of these things, and it's not even the biggest of these boxes, right? So, all right. Well, what is your favorite narrative game then? Would it be Arkham Horror?
Yeah.
I guess I don't want to say this game's narrative and this game's not. So it's really more just like, what game do you walk away with the most story, right? In your head, like.
Yeah, stuff. I'd have to say, I think one of my favorite moments was when I got stuck in the freezer and did nothing basically all that entire game.
That was Mansions of Madness, you said, though, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I have that one too. I have the first one. I don't have the second one with the app. Have you played the one with the app?
I haven't tried it with the app yet.
I haven't you?
Yeah.
Although I do have the Lord of the Rings Journey one that has the app, and it's really good.
It's similar, right? But it's supposed to. Yeah. I think it works the same way.
I heard that it is. I heard that they use the same kind of app.
Yeah. One of my other favorite. It came out of the same game that I mentioned earlier with Not Alone, where Ben just got in my head the entire game, and I was just hovering over the lair the whole game. The entire game, wherever I went as the creature, I put my little chip down, and if you decided to go to that location, nothing happened. You got hit, but you didn't get to perform any action. And I'm trying to figure out Ben and the lair the whole game. Every turn, I caught our friend Evan wherever he went. Whatever mind game Ben was playing that he had me hooked on the entire game, I wasn't even thinking about Evan. But every time I put my token down, Evan would flip up, and it was the location I picked until the very last turn of the game. He selected the location that let him play 2 cards the next game, the next turn. Game was over. He didn't even get to play that turn.
Oh.
So the one time I didn't catch him was the last turn of the game where he couldn't perform the action that he got through.
That's funny.
Oh my God, that game it's one of my favorite moments in games, was the whole lair thing with Ben, and the fact that, and I'm sure Evan hated every minute of it, because you sit there and you want to play a game and you didn't get anything to trigger the entire game.
Right.
And I swear up and down to him that I wasn't doing it on purpose. I wasn't trying to get him. I wasn't thinking about getting him. I was strictly going after Ben, but every turn I caught Evan, and it was equally as fun as me getting stuck in the freezer in Mansions. as one of my two favorite moments.
And that's the thing, right? It's not even like, I've tried to explain this before to other people, is that you can have a fun, bad experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even the experience I described about Arkham Horror, I have told that experience before. And I kind of enjoyed that it was that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, I didn't do anything. And you guys, like the rest of the team, won the whole thing. I never did anything to help.
Mm-hmm.
Not even on purpose. Like, I wasn't like, I won't not help these guys or anything. I was trying, but I was stuck. Like, I was completely useless.
Mm-hmm.
I was like that whole side quest in episode 8 of Star Wars. Completely didn't need to exist.
Oh, okay.
I've referenced that before, but yeah, the what's his name, Finn and Rose going off in that. You could take all of that out of episode 8.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 8 still happens.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So same thing. Like, I was like, you could have removed me from this game. I could have stayed home and you guys would have had the same result
Mm-hmm.
from this game. In fact, it might have been easier because you'd have one less player to do, right?
Sure.
But I still, like, at the time, I was like, I can't get anything done. But the story afterwards is still kind of fun. That's why I keep going back to the game.
If that happened every time you played, fine. Like,
right.
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 But it's those moments that stick out, right? You're talking about 1920s. Either you're a cultist and you're really up on the spells, or you got like this little pea shooter and you're stuck in a library the whole game. Like, it just, or how many times have you gotten stuck because you couldn't move out because the monsters decided to have a party in the street right outside Miskatonic U or whatever?
I now go through it. I've now realized that game's all about experience, and I will have the biggest experience, good or bad.
Right.
And that's how you have fun in those games. You're like, I'm going to risk it. You do the riskiest thing because that's what normally gives you the most. The only time it doesn't pay off is when you get the lost in the void or whatever and you're missing turns.
Right.
I hate any game. Well, I don't hate the game, but I hate that, and I'll say this for you, mechanism, where in a game, people miss turns.
Right.
I've avoided it. I'm designing a game right now that is purposely avoiding it. Like, I'm designing a way around that, player elimination, missing turns.
Right.
That all goes against the player's experience. And ultimately, and that's what we're talking about here, you're trying to make is a great experience, right?
Right. Look what you did with what you said earlier about Troubles and your experience with Euphoria and being bumped and having it be negative, but you turned it into a positive.
Right.
You don't want to have a negative I mean, you will have negative experiences in games. Hopefully they are there for a purpose, right? Or if you have to take a turn off, it's your choice to take a turn off, right? We mentioned Century Spice Road, your turn where you or a rest action that gets you stuff. I'm going to take this turn off, but I'm going to get something for it.
Right. But even that, I think designers are trying to get away from, like, have you played Dwellings of Eldervale yet?
No.
Okay, so
I don't have the table space for it yet.
it's kind of big. It's not as big as you think, though. It's got a lot of stuff to it, but people don't have to spread it out as much as they are in pictures. But anyway, Luke designed, you know how, like, worker placement games, you put your worker out on your turn, you do the action kind of thing. And there's always this turn where you got to pull back your people, right? Even in Troubles, you have that turn where you don't get to do anything. The only reason why I think it works in Troubles is because turns are so fast. But in this game, in Dwellings, when you pull back your people, everybody you pull back gets to activate something in a tableau you're building. So in that turn, you get to do cool stuff and stuff. In fact, sometimes you pull back early just to activate stuff, just to get things rolling, like this engine that you've built. So
that's cool.
The reason why I think, or at least one of the reasons why I think that game's doing so well, is because Luke has eliminated the boring turn out of worker placements that exist in so many of them.
Right.
So
especially a game that lasts, like Century Spice Road, that turn where you pick up your cards. it's not going to take forever to get back to you.
Right.
Yeah.
It's forgivable. It's just like when people say that player elimination is forgivable in King of Tokyo because it's kind of a fast game.
Mm-hmm.
If your experience is just like, oh no, I missed my turn. Okay, it's my turn again.
Yeah,
that's fine. But if it's,
funny,
it's been an hour since my last turn, I missed my turn. Here's another hour I have to wait for my next.
Yeah, not worth it at all.
No.
You brought up player elimination in King of Tokyo, and funny story in the game design course. King of Tokyo was one of the ones we showed. It's easy to teach. You're playing it really quickly, right? Most of the sophomores had an idea of what Yahtzee was, so they can kind of wrap their head around the dice hole thing. One of the groups, one of the students hated the player elimination. She's like, I don't think it's fair that a player has to sit out while we all have fun. So she house ruled it at the table that if you did get eliminated, you could roll your die. And if it came back, I forget what it was, one of the numbers or the heart and the fist, then you can reset your heart to 3 and you can continue to play. So it lengthened the game. But her immediate draw was, well, I don't like the fact that someone now has to sit out from the experience. And she wanted to rectify it. It was nothing that we taught. And it was fascinating to see actually happen.
So she house ruled
it.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about house rules before.
Sure did. Then she called up the designer and told Richard Garfield that his game sucked and that she fixed it for him.
As you're supposed to do, right?
Sure.
Yeah. When you house rule something, contact the designer.
Yeah.
Don't do that. We need letters. Don't do that.
Don't do that. If people saw episode 2, they'd understand what we're talking about.
Yeah. I saw that exact example the other day. Someone, I won't say what it was and stuff, but they were posting in a group they knew the designer was in saying, oh, I think this and this doesn't work. So we house ruled it after 3 games or something. And of course the designer, good job, answers like, oh, well, this is why this and this, but I'm glad you're having fun. Good job. That's how we're supposed to react. Even inwardly, we should see it that way and stuff, But even me seeing that, I was like, I'm kind of mad for the designer. Just don't like it.
Fascinating.
But yeah, I mean, for instance, that example that you're talking about, what she did with that rule threw off the 2 paths to winning.
Mm-hmm.
You can never win now by elimination. And there are cards in there that exist only for that path.
Sure.
But when those cards come out, I'm not getting those cards then. In fact, why do I ever care about someone attacking me if I will never get knocked out? All that game now became was getting numbers on your dice.
Yeah, it wasn't. The numbers were 50%, so it wasn't that. I think it was the heart. If you rolled a heart, you got to stay back in it. So it became luck, which
okay.
Right.
That's even worse.
Right. One of our design challenges, because we would give the students a certain amount of components, and then they would have to design a game within 40 minutes to an hour of one of the mechanisms we chose for that day. So we usually presented them with 3, and then they would have 40 to 60 minutes, depending on what was going on, to show us that they understood the mechanism by designing a game with X amount of components. But that was prior to any of that stuff happening, right? We never really talked about player elimination being bad. We talked about roll and move being bad, like that. We hit that hard. But the idea of player elimination and feeling bad sitting out was not something we addressed. And it wasn't until later that we actually removed dice from their challenges, talking about how we want no luck in your game. Like even the shuffling of a deck and drawing a card is luck, right? But as long as there's a way to mitigate that. And we took dice right out of the challenges because it's so heavy on luck. So her fix broke the game to a degree, but it was interesting to see she didn't even like the feeling that someone else, even if she did the eliminating, no, that's not fun for them because now they got to sit out while we have fun. So she gave it a little bit of maybe you can come in. And then that was kind of cool because now there's this epic moment of, oh, I rolled a heart, I'm back in it. Godzilla came back up kind of thing. Yeah.
My suggestion for people who want to house rule games, don't house rule the game. play the game as it is, but make a better game. Design one yourself.
Mm.
And then by the time you're done designing that, you might realize why one thing was chosen over the other, and you might even come up with a better solution for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might come up with a better game. And then once you're done, someone else will house roll your game. You'll see how it feels.
And then you'll revert back and see how it feels.
And you'll tell them, make a better game, and we'll just get better games, right?
I think it's great. That's a great.
I mean, house rules come out from the fact that someone's had a bad experience.
Sure.
And I don't think anybody can ever make the perfect game where all players always have a great experience. Too many people are too different.
Sure.
What makes a great experience for me is different for you, different for other people, right?
Sure.
So when it's a house rule that's trying to fix like an actual mechanic that is causing everyone something like player elimination, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that everyone could go, not a fan of.
Right.
Even roll and move. Some people go, I don't mind it. But nobody goes, I love it, right? Who loves it? Nobody loves it. I think there's a lot of people that accept it, but not love it.
I think the only game that does roll and move differently, borderline well, is Quest for the Antidote.
I haven't played it.
Every action you take takes a breath away from you, and you start with 50 breaths. You've been poisoned. You have to find the antidote, get back to the apothecary before you die. And everything you do, you fight a monster, you decide to move, you draw a card. Everything is a breath. So at least it's roll and move, but there's some.
Why is it roll and move? You don't have a certain set of breaths or something?
No. So if you decide to move, that's an action. So that'll take a breath away from you. But your roll of the die every time. I think it comes down to every time you roll the dice, you lose a breath.
Wow. That's cool.
So it's roll and move. So it's like, I only rolled a 3. I needed a 4 to get to where I need to go. But
that reminds me of our last episode where I talked about Spawn, where you have a limited amount of power. You can do anything you want, but you die the faster you use it. That's cool.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that game.
Not very good. I had high hopes for it.
Oh,
I love the concept of it. I set it up. I played through it. I didn't play it with other people. I played it, solo, but two-handed. And it was just I fell flat. I love the idea, and maybe I held it up too high, but it fell a little flat for me.
Make a better one.
Exactly. I love the concept of it, right? You have, like you said, with Spawn, you have 50 breaths, and you're poisoned, and you're gonna die unless you can get there and get back in 50 breaths.
If you could make a game with the IP of Spawn, it's kind of the same idea, right? Yeah. Give them a task. It seems like a single game, like a single player game or something, but give them a single task and you have to reach a certain thing, but you can spend power however you want, but you're going to die just before getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun.
Yeah. Maybe we should go down that path.
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't want to get involved in that. Although it is interesting, there aren't a lot of. So, are there any games that use comic book heroes? Like, are there any board games that use comic heroes that aren't portrayed in movies?
Well, the one Valiant game that I just showed you.
Right, Valiant has a
deck builder.
Deck builder, right.
I'll know more about that for next episode. I don't have it yet, and I know nothing of it. I'm waiting for it to come, but...
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, Spawn did have a movie, but it's not a good movie.
Sure.
But, like a Batman game, right?
Yeah.
Nobody... tons of people have probably played Batman games, but have not read Batman comics.
Right.
But if you had, like, Sleepwalker or... someone or Moon Knight or, someone who doesn't have a movie or a show about them that is only famous from the comics. I don't know if there's any games about them like that.
You think there's a reason though? Maybe.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there's definitely crossover of comic readers and game players, but probably not as much as used to, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
The audience obviously has been growing quite exponentially, and that's great for the industry. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe X-Force. Well, no, I guess technically Cable.
Yeah. I mean, he was in Deadpool too, right?
Yeah.
Depends on which X-Force too. Cable doesn't have to be in it.
True.
You have strong guy, which is ridiculous.
Then you got Domino too, right?
Oh yeah, Domino and she was in Deadpool too. Yeah.
What about
There's not a
Shatterstorm?
Deadpool.
What was Shatterstorm in? He wasn't a New Mutants?
He was. Was he not in New Mutants?
Was it New Mutants?
He was drawn by Liefeld, right?
It's been a minute.
We're way off the rails now.
Yeah, we are. Well, maybe this is a good post-episode chatter. We'll go over to the Discord and talk about Shatterstorm and whether or not he was with New Mutants.
Yep. So we may have to start saying that this is a 2.5 hour show, because we've gone 2.5 hours and we still have not even hit some of the other parts.
Yeah, I really wanted to talk about WandaVision too.
Yeah, we keep getting to the point where we're like too far on. Well, we could talk a little bit about WandaVision before we go. How about that?
We could.
Yeah. So obviously we've seen the latest.
Where's Thrawn? Where's Thrawn? Hold up, Thrawn.
I don't have Thrawn with me now. It's gonna have to be Jar Jar. I know you love Jar Jar, right?
I love Jar Jar.
The rest of the episode's gonna be about WandaVision, and we'll go.
I don't know. I could really go down the Jar Jar hole right now. Like I'm having flashbacks of Clone Wars.
No. Hey, wait. Real quick question: Is Jar Jar in Queen's Gambit?
Yeah. Well, I don't think specifically. Maybe referenced on a card.
I can't hear you very well when you lean back that far.
He doesn't have his own mini.
Oh, he doesn't? Oh, okay. So. Is there like a card or something with him in it? Or?
Yeah, I think he's referenced, but like the Gungans are Gungans. They're not. There's not Jar Jar or General.
Oh, okay. Yeah. If they had added Jar Jar, then I'd definitely buy it for $200. I'd use this figure too.
Yeah, sure. Might as well. He's better.
Okay, so WandaVision. It's getting crazy, right? It's getting so good.
Oh yeah.
I'm so happy that it's paying off. Like the first 2 episodes that came out, I loved them. I loved every bit of it. But I saw the post in social media going, I don't know, it's blah, 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 and everybody else going, have patience. It's going to pay off. Yeah. And I was saying, Marvel hasn't steered you wrong yet, have they? Just watch. I'm so glad it's paying off, and it's paying off even faster than I thought it would, right? Yeah. I'm surprised now at how fast we're rolling, like getting through stuff. I'm worried too. I'm like, oh, this isn't the end, right? Okay, no, still more to come. Okay, good.
4 more episodes.
4 more?
Okay. They're going 9, right? So we've just done 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, was this 5? Oh, it's 4. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. No, you're right. No, right? No. And yeah, I don't know. It's the one where, and here's big spoiler, Quicksilver at the end, right?
Yeah, 5.
Yeah, that's 5. Yeah. So okay, did you expect it to be the actor or the version of Quicksilver that it was?
I didn't expect it to be Quicksilver.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I expected he would, when she brought him up in episode, I think it was 3.
Yeah.
When she had the babies, when she brought him up, I was like, oh, because she's already got this whole reality show. I'm like, are they gonna bring him back? That's gonna be fascinating, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of thought of it, and then getting near the end and talking about bringing people back and stuff, I was like, they might do it. I didn't think they were gonna do it right then. I thought maybe like the next episode or something like that. But when she went, who's at the door? Like, And that's when it popped in my head, like, oh, it's gonna be Quicksilver. But then it's the other, like the X-Men Quicksilver.
Yeah.
I was just like, what?
Well, because we haven't really established reanimation. Like she can't. We don't necessarily know that. We don't know the extent of her powers, right? I still think she put the Mind Stone back together. I don't know. I haven't read spoilers. I don't know what the hell is going on. I've been involved in a couple conversations with people that are like this, but I thought prior to this, I thought the Mind Stone was reduced to a molecular level. She can control molecules, so it wouldn't be past her to put the Mind Stone back together and put back into Vision because she stole Vision.
Well, it wasn't reduced to anything. Thanos went back and took it for himself and put it in the glove.
Right, but no, when did he put it? Yeah, I'm talking about after that.
Yeah, after that, Thanos snapped his finger and broke him, and then they went back in time and got him.
Right.
And then Captain America took it back.
Oh, put him back in the thing.
Yeah, put him back in the time periods where they were.
Right, but in this,
which means that it would be back into Loki's scepter. I don't know how he did that. Yeah, they didn't really explain that part.
Okay, so maybe there's something to explore there.
Yeah.
But at this moment, I guess the stones aren't destroyed.
Right. Yeah, so he goes.
Yep.
Okay, hold on. All right, let's follow this there. All right, so first the stone, it's the Mind Stone. It's in Loki's scepter.
Right.
They use that scepter to make her powers.
Right.
Then they grab the scepter and they take the stone out and they put it in Vision.
Right.
So both their powers are very much from the same stone.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. Then Thanos, then she explodes the gem, but Thanos reverses that and takes the gem.
Right.
There's the gem. Puts it there, snaps, hurts everybody. Later on, he snaps again to destroy the gems. So then they go back in time. Where do they grab that gem? I don't remember them ever talking about where they got that gem. They show them getting the Tesseract.
Right. And isn't it in there though?
No. That's the space gem.
Oh yeah, that's not the Mind one.
Yeah. No, it's in the scepter, which is the Mind one. That's why he could control people by touching their heart, kind of thing.
Right.
So, but they never talk about where they get that one, do they? Or am I just missing that part in the end game?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's when they went back. Didn't they get the scepter from the Battle of New York? When they went back?
Yes, you're right. That's what. No. That was the Tesseract. Remember, Captain America had the suitcase, and he was fighting the people, and the suitcase fell and opened up, and Loki grabbed the Tesseract and disappears.
Which is yep.
Which is the whole Loki thing that will be great, hopefully. Looks really good.
Yeah.
But that's the Tesseract. So where'd they get the scepter from? We must just be missing a scene or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember.
The time gem comes from. Well, this isn't fun to watch. Probably us having a
thinking about where the
brain meltdown. Yeah. Well, if somebody made it this long, they can tell us where we're wrong.
Sure, that's true. Leave a
Makes
comment.
me want to go back and watch it. So.
Yeah, so I was under the impression that she put it back together. We find out that she steals the body, right? So it's feasible that she took the stone and put it back together. But I was under the impression that it was still reduced. But I guess if Cap goes back and puts them back where they were, where's the Mind Stone originally?
in Loki's scepter.
Prior to.
Oh, we never see it before that. Loki's scepter was in Avengers 1. It was the second gemstone they ever showed. The Tesseract was the first.
And we don't see where he gets it from?
They say in Avengers 1 that Thanos gives it to him to use.
So it already exists when we meet it.
Yeah, Thanos already had, which is a bit crazy. They kind of did anything, but I don't think in Avengers 1 they thought that gem would be in there. And I think they went back and kind of made it there because I can't imagine Thanos would ever hand Loki a gem. His whole goal is to get the gems, right?
Not initially, right? I mean, I thought he was like kind of paying off Loki to do what he wanted.
Initially, he was getting Loki to give him the Tesseract and said he would help him capture the Earth for the Tesseract. Because the Tesseract had the space gem in it.
Right.
So why would he give Loki a mind gem to go get another gem? Unless he thought, well, then I'll just grab that gem back. I don't know. We're going to dig ourselves in the holes of just conspiracy theories of Avengers at some point. But yeah, back to WandaVision. I'm thinking that he only exists alive in that space, right? Like I think if she collapses that space, he's not going to walk out of there alive, and that's why she's so protective of it.
Okay.
Otherwise, why can't they just live their lives together anywhere else?
Right.
You know, at the Avengers thing, back to where they were before, doing well and stuff. I think she has to create this ultimate reality, and that stone or whatever is something that she can only maintain in that bubble. I don't know why she picked that spot or that town or whatever, but
it's funny it's in New Jersey.
Oh, yeah. Have we seen that FBI guy before?
Yeah.
Where are you from? I can't remember.
I'm hoping they do an entire series of just him like hunting down things, because that would be great.
I can't remember where I've seen him before.
He was in... I had it until you asked me.
And I love Darcy.
Darcy's
I love that they brought her in.
Yeah, she's from Thor. He's from...
She's the reason why I call his hammer a Mew Mew.
A Mew Mew.
Yeah. What's a Mew Mew?
What is he from? I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
But yes, he's already existed in... We've already seen him.
I saw him, I was like, I've seen him from something.
Yeah.
I love that character.
Yep.
So...
Yeah, there's a lot going on, right?
There is. I like that we're now seeing the outward bubble, and they're saying like what's going on. They're trying to figure out. I like that they're watching the show that we're watching, and we're getting to see their reactions. It's almost like watching a reaction video, right?
Right.
Especially with Darcy, just like binging it and like getting into it.
Oh yeah, she's going over the whole cast. Yep.
Yeah.
What do you think of Vision starting to see what's going on?
Yeah, so I don't know if she can control him and is choosing not to because she cares about him so much, she wants him to be him, or really does she not have the ability to control him? And obviously some of this is out of her control. She can't control the twins with her ability.
Right.
You know, that's weird. And I don't know if she did start it. Maybe she started it inadvertently or something, but I don't think it's as easy as she just kind of went crazy and that's it. Right. I think there's something else going around, that something else created it and she's somehow found a way to manipulate it.
Okay.
At least that's my guess. Because she even it took her a while to start to realize, it feels like, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe she did have a breakdown, but it's been like 5 years since he died. So, why now?
Has it been 5?
Yeah, it's after the snap.
Oh yeah, and everybody returned.
Yeah,
it was 3, but yeah.
No, it was 5. Wasn't it?
I thought when Rambeau was in the hospital and she's talking to the doctor about her mother, she says that her mother died 3 years ago.
Right, but she disappeared 5 years ago.
But she woke up as if she was still reliving that moment in the hospital bed, waiting for her mother to come back from whatever test was going on.
Right, it was cancer.
Right,
But
right.
I think her mom lived for another 2 years with cancer, fighting it or whatever, because there were changes that her mom implemented in Sword before that she didn't know about. So clearly, your mom had been around and done some stuff before then.
Yeah.
But I mean, in Endgame, it was 5 years. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
I love seeing the people come back together, though. Like the ashes coming together.
Oh yeah.
Like that was amazing. That was great.
Yeah, it was pretty
Some of them just kind of walking while still on the phone, and
yeah.
That was crazy.
What do you think of the and speculation, but the astronauts?
You mean just like, oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine that a lot of those people died.
Right, but there's 4 of them that may not have.
Oh, 4. That's a interesting number. That's a neat idea. I like that.
You're out in space. The blip happens, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
You come back.
That's cool. I haven't heard of that before. That's a neat idea. I hope they do something like that now. Now I'm going to be disappointed if they don't.
I'm hoping. Well, there's a lot of... So I got involved in a conversation on Wednesday, and there were 2 people this guy swore were coming in that episode, and it was a toss-up between Magneto or Professor X. And the argument on both sides made sense, and I didn't see it. I just didn't see it. Like, there's no way. Then the evidence started coming up. I was like, well, yeah, that would make sense. Like, Professor X could be the only one to, like, really tap in and help her. And then Magneto, obviously.
I tried my very best to avoid all spoilers or people like I don't mind you and me just talking about stuff, but I try not to listen or look at rumor stuff because I don't know how close they are to, but I was scrolling through something and I saw a picture of Magneto coming for the last one. I was like, I don't want to see that and stuff. So I was glad that it wasn't, just because I'd be upset if that's like, oh, I knew it was coming. That sucks. But yeah, I don't know how Magneto would have helped her. And plus, in this universe, she's not his daughter, right? Well,
I thought so. Or at least, I mean, if we're getting Peter instead of Pietro, then in that universe, he is.
Right. So, yeah, he's pulled from a different universe, right?
Like, how does Peter recognize her as his sister if he's from a different universe?
Well, when people get pulled into that region, obviously they're given some form of information,
right,
as to who people are. Because whenever Rambeau got thrown into that place, she instantly had her hair and all that stuff, and she, called herself Geraldine and had this whole story. I think when you go in, this character gets put into your head. So I could easily see him getting information as I guess he was created. Who knows?
It's the start of the multiverse, if anything.
You think so? So, but I thought that they had been talking about, and this might not be true, but I thought they'd been talking about reinventing all of the X-Men stuff into the Marvel universe. Because the X-Men, they're owned by Sony, aren't they?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's the same kind of agreement they have with Spider-Man, but like
Right.
X-Men is MCU, and that was the first, like, hey,
Yeah.
whether or not X-Men are canon, I don't know if they're gonna.
I mean, Quicksilver in the last X-Men movies was the best scenes of the whole movie.
Sure, when the whole mansion was blowing up.
Yeah, the whole Frozen thing, him listening to the music, doing. I mean, it's the most entertaining scenes anyway. So yeah, I don't mind them bringing them in. It's just I was kind of looking forward to see what a new version of X-Men would be in this Marvel universe and how they would integrate the entire mutant issue. You know, like as far as we know, in the Avengers world, there are no mutants.
Right.
I mean, on a scale of what they should be in comic book world, right? Because definitely people would be talking about it in these movies. You would think one mutant would be fighting, and in fact, Wanda is not even a mutant in this version.
Right.
She's a what do you call that? Something superhuman. I forget what they call it, but it's the same thing that Captain America is. He's been an altered human, basically.
Yeah. Cap calls her an enhanced
human. Yeah. So no mutants in this world. So
yeah.
But
look what they're doing with Spider-Man, right? I mean, if they're gonna start bringing in, and I think if I had to pick one of my favorite, I don't know if it would count as an MCU movie. I would think it would be, is the Spider-Man Into the Multiverse or Into the Spider-Verse.
I mean, I keep seeing rumors, and I don't want to spoil stuff to you, but I keep seeing rumors that other people from other universes of Spider-Man are being grabbed. You know why?
Yeah, of course.
How do you not know why?
Yeah, they're doing the real
Morales and everything. Gwen.
Well, look at Doctor Strange 2, right? It's a multiverse of madness.
Yeah.
And they've already the rumor is that Doctor Strange is making an appearance in WandaVision.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's going to lead into, and Peter coming in is now that gap between that universe and this universe. So there's this. It's setting up beautifully.
Maybe that's what's happened is like the break in the multiverse has happened here, and she accidentally triggered it or something, and that's why she's got up into stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really, there's so much to it. I can't imagine the planning that must be connected to this.
If anyone can do it, it could be them. I mean, look at what they've done. All of those moments on screen with all of the Avengers and how each one of them has just escalated to that last fight. Like, it's just, if anyone could do it, they've set it up perfectly to control it.
Do you think that they are, because a lot of the actors of the Avengers aren't coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that they're kind of like resting the Avengers and bringing up the X-Men kind of thing?
No. I think we're going to see Chris Evans again. I think we're going to see Tony Stark again. I don't think they're done, right? Because now if you're going to introduce multiverses, that means Tony Stark exists somewhere else.
And that'd be fine if it was like hey, I happen to be here for a moment because multiverse and blah, blah, blah. I don't want him to just come in and exist in our universe again. Right. More Iron Man, all that, because his ending was so good. It's a whole death of Superman for me again.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ruin the death.
Mm-hmm.
It was such an amazing moment.
Yeah,
it's okay if he exists in an alternate universe and pops in for one little thing or something. That's cool. But
if you could pull off a Red Sun with like Captain America,
I don't know the Red Sun.
Superman, Red Sun.
Yeah,
like
I know it's Superman, but I've never read it.
Oh, so the premise is, what if instead of landing in Kansas?
The Russian thing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I know the premise. Yeah. That was an interesting idea.
So what if
interesting, like an evil, or not evil, but different perspective of that's cool.
Like, what if Cap was? I think they're going to explore this with the What If series because, again, I have super high hopes for that. But like, what if Cap was friends with Red Skull? What if that program was there and Red Skull was like? That'd be an interesting one-off if you want to do a one-off. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That'd be fun.
Anything's on the table now, right? You got time travel. The stones are back where they were. Like
this is what makes me worry is that this is getting to those world-breaking powers that I talked about for DC shows that they don't know how to write themselves back out of or write around. And I at least trust Marvel to have the foresight of planning ahead. Because you get into trouble whenever you just go, now our guys can time travel. And then you get to the next movie and you go, why don't they just time travel at the beginning of this movie and fix it? Right.
Yeah.
The same thing is like, why didn't Frodo and Sam just ride the Eagles all the way to Mordor? If they're, it's that kind of situation that I'm worried that they're going to write themselves into. But, so far they haven't gone wrong. So, in my opinion, I don't think they've done anything to break stuff. But when I saw in Endgame that they had time travel, I was like, at least they did this at the end of everything.
Right.
But now that we're continuing, they still have time travel.
Right.
Right.
But I think wasn't it all explained with what's her name? The sorcerer, not Sorcerer Supreme. Was it Sorcerer Supreme? In Doctor Strange? When she was explaining the banner, like how it all works and it's gotta be back, everything's where it is, so it's here. And
it creates branches.
Right. Like that's gonna come into play more, right? We haven't seen the last of that.
And that's one reason why a very good person might not use time travel. Right? Like I could see Captain saying, we're not going to do this because it's going to fracture the time periods, all this stuff. But you just get like a medium, like not super good-hearted, but still a hero guy, Wolverine style, even Hawkeye level. If his family hadn't come back, you think he wouldn't use time travel to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
I think, Tony and some of the upper ones that have like this moral code and stuff that they could, there'd be reasons for them not to do it, but there's plenty of people, I think that,
yeah, I don't think Tony, you're not giving Tony keys to the kingdom. Maybe at the end, the last couple moments, but.
Well, I mean, honestly, that's exactly what he did. He went back in time, right?
Yeah.
So it's not even the debate. He really did use time travel to undo the past. So that's exactly what he did. And, you could argue that if they didn't know about the branching and all that, they'd still do it. There's no way.
Yeah.
Thor didn't care either way. I think Thor would do it. If he could bring back his home and all that stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
No.
It's gonna be interesting to see. I don't know what they have planned. I know it's leading into the multiverse in multiple ways, and I'm trying to stay away from the spoilers as well. So I don't want to say anything.
I know.
Interesting.
I even wanted to see. I was going to watch a video that just kind of had the comic history of Wanda or Scarlet Witch in there, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember," because I don't remember a lot about her and stuff. So I was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And then it got to like the part where she has twins. I was like, "Stop!" I was like,
"Yep,
it's getting too close." And even if they divert from that, I don't even want to know what could be. Like that's how unspoilery I want to be.
Yeah.
So
stay away from me then, because there's the only thing I want if they are doing this multiverse thing, I want Hugh Jackman to do one of those FU moments again.
That was great. Yeah.
Just a little.
Never even looked at him. Yeah.
Nope. I think it would be awesome.
Although he said he's never going to play him again.
Right.
And Patrick Stewart said he's never going to play. But, people say things and you tempt them with a little bit of. Patrick Stewart said he'd never play Picard again, and we have Picard. So.
Yeah. And it could be like a Carrie Fisher like cut scene that didn't make it, and then you bring him in to.
Yeah. Although I know they still have to kind of pay the actors and stuff like that too. So.
Sure, but technically he's not playing him again, right?
Yeah. I mean, nobody's going to complain, right?
No.
I do really kind of want to see a MCU version of X-Men now.
Sure.
Like you can still have it because of the multiverse, right?
Well, what's the New Mutants?
What?
The New Mutants, isn't that MCU?
I still haven't seen that movie.
I haven't either, but
it's on Amazon. I just haven't seen it yet. It looks kind of like a horror thing.
Yep.
But is it MCU? I don't know.
I don't know. It's the New Mutants. I thought it was everything about the new, like it's the New Mutants in a different way. But I would think that it was Marvel.
I don't know if it is the New Mutants. Is it?
It's called the New Mutants.
Yeah, but I don't know. I hadn't seen it, so.
Plus mutants, right? Isn't mutants trademarked?
I don't know if it's trademarked. They don't use it in DC, though, do they?
I don't think so.
I mean, they use it in sci-fi movies and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I gotta look that up. We'll have to talk about that next time. I'm curious about it.
Cool. Maybe we'll look up all the stuff we couldn't remember.
We should definitely. It's so much stuff, though. I don't know if I can remember all the stuff we didn't remember.
That's true. Well, luckily we've recorded it. And if anybody is stuck with us after 3 hours now of an episode, I guess we need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we could go on forever.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is why it's fun to make these episodes.
Apparently, we have a lot to talk about. So
it's a good thing that we start late at 8 for me because otherwise you could just spend the whole day doing this, right?
We should. Yeah. Maybe we do a 24-hour like extra life event where all we do is talk for 24 hours.
We should play a virtual game while doing it too.
We should. Outer Rim, probably.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, we'll think about that.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
All right. Well, if anyone did finish after 3 hours of this, thank you for watching. Anything you want to add?
No, I'm enjoying the hell out of this. I hope people are too. I know this one got a little longer. The last one was a little longer, but hopefully they're fun. Even if you have them on in the background, right? And you're just listening to us ramble about why is this sci-fi and why do you like that so much? And what the hell was wrong with the Mind Stone? Like,
yeah. Yeah, honestly, that's what I enjoy listening to during the day while I'm working and stuff. That's why I wanted to make something like this because, I mean, half the time I feel like I'm in those conversations, but I don't get to say my part. So that's why I'm doing this. Just get to say my part.
I'm in. I love it. I think if we are going to go 3 hours, though, we should really consider maybe getting Lance on one of these days and just.
Yeah, or there's several people. I know Peter Vaughn would be a guest, a dwellings developer and designer in his own right. Lance Meister, several people we could bring on.
Because it is only our view, and what the hell do we know?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. We know nothing.
Nothing.
We're like a couple of Jon Snows. All right.
Yeah, we know nothing.
Well, let's call it quits after 3 hours.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for watching.
See you guys soon.